Great Tribal Chief. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, Logistics Soldier. During the expedition to Yuchiren, Shi Xiong found that the effects on the shield wall was still very good, especially during the few days when the Yuchiren was chased and killed. If it hadn't prepared the kind of large wooden shield wrapped in iron in advance, perhaps the expedition team would have to drop more than a dozen corpses or even more corpses on Yuchiren's side. Ran out. The last time the Yuchiman expedition was Shi Xiong's first command of operations. Even if he is from a later generation, he has more than 200 years of knowledge than anyone in this world, but in terms of military affairs, he is still out and out rookie. Although the expedition team has far more advanced thermal weapons than Yuchiren, the rookie Shi Xiong still underestimates the huge gap in the number of people. Sometimes it can smooth the gap between weapons. At the beginning of the battle with the Yuchi, because the chief of the Yuchi and several tribal leaders were shot and killed by the stone bear in advance, the Yuchi crowd had no head, and this was completely beaten by 100 musketeers, which eventually led to a collapse. But in the final stage of being hunted down, Yuchiren was chased only in the last few days because of the command of the Bighorn sheep from the Cree tribe, and the retreat route of the expedition team was not suitable for the musketeers to exert the greatest power. Killed so miserably. If it weren't for the last decisive battle, the river beach was really too suitable for the musketeers to play. The final result of that battle is still unknown. But it was the decisive battle that made Shi Xiong realize that the protection of his fighters is actually very important. Regardless of whether you have long-range attack weapons such as grenades, muskets, and strong bows, the expeditionary force has only more than 2,000 people. And the expeditionary force needs to face a large tribe with a population of close to 100,000. Although Shi Xiong is confident that even in the face of 10,000 Cree people, his own troops can finally defeat the enemy with the advanced nature of their weapons, but the decisive battle with Yuchiren made Shi Xiong decided to add a protective umbrella to the main combat troops. This layer of protective umbrella is the 300 people who served as guerrillas. These 300 people usually fight with the main force, but the main time for them to take action is to shoot with a strong bow after the enemy breaks through a distance of 120 meters. The High Tree tribe's strong bow made of steel plates has a range that is nearly twice as long as that of the Cree's bows and arrows, so this strong bow is also a powerful supplement to the musket. However, once the enemy broke through within 80 meters by virtue of the number of people, the 300 people would use the large shields they carried to build a shield wall for the musketeers in front, to protect the musketeers behind the shield wall to the utmost extent. The weight of a large shield is more than 20 kilograms. These 300 guerrillas must not be able to carry such a heavy thing before fighting. After all, the weight of their own arrows is not as heavy as that of the large iron arrows used by the stone bear. Outrageous, but they carry a large number of arrows, and their weight is already very heavy, plus the big shield, then they don't do anything at all. Therefore, in order to ensure the offensive and defensive capabilities of these guerrillas, Shi Xiong specially equipped them with 50 tame bisons. These 50 bisons are their logistics and are specially used to carry the large shields of these rangers and arrows. With these guerrillas here, and with the main force, Shi Xiong is confident to resist an attack of 10,000 people. No matter how powerful the Cree tribe is, it is only a tribe with a population of about 100,000. The number of fighters of such a tribe is about 30,000. Even if it is a 10,000 scale attack, how many times can they organize? As for the protection of the logistics soldiers, Shi Xiong also has arrangements. Although the logistics team was in the rear during the battle, after all, this expedition was to go to the Carrie people's territory to find trouble, and they were the home game, occupying the advantage of the geographical advantage. In the unlikely event that someone discovers the existence of logistics soldiers during combat, and allocates a unit to attack the logistics soldiers, then the logistics soldiers must have a certain degree of self-protection capability. There are more than 200 bullock carts in the logistics team. In addition to various ammunition and food supplies, each bullock cart also has a defensive equipment similar to a shield wall made of thin steel plates. This kind of equipment is connected with the bullock cart and is a retractable equipment. Once an enemy appeared around the logistics unit, the logistics soldiers gathered the bullock carts together and surrounded the city in small circles. All the bulls rushed inside and the bullock carts were outside. Then the logistics soldiers could put them in the bullocks. The thin steel plate at the bottom of the cart was pulled out and then erected again. This kind of thin steel plate is very thin, only about 2 millimeters thick, but the area is much larger than the wooden shields used by guerrillas. The area of the entire thin steel plate is about the same size as that of the chassis of a bullock cart. Although this kind of steel shield made of thin steel plates is not light in weight, the weight is directly borne by the bullock cart and does not impose any burden on the fighters. And once this kind of steel shield is erected at a 45-degree angle, it can cover almost all the bullock cart and the pulled bison, and almost all the enemy's arrows. For the bows and arrows used by the Indians now, it is almost impossible to shoot through this 2 mm thick steel plate. www.wuxiaspot.com. Even if the enemy breaks through the distance where the bone spear can be used, it is close. The bone spear thrown from the distance is also helpless with this kind of steel plate. This is a serious steel plate, not to mention arrows and bone spears. Even if the musketeers shoot at close range, lead bullets cannot penetrate the steel plate. These steel plates are the main protective equipment for logistics soldiers. As for the counterattack, that was the strong bow in the hands of the 700 logistics soldiers. Those soldiers who serve as logistic transporters are just logistic soldiers, but they are also very elite soldiers. After all, they are elite warriors carefully selected from the Crooked Deer tribe and the Bone Spear tribe. Although they could not be selected as the musketeers and artillery, their strength should never be underestimated. These 700 logistics soldiers have also killed people and seen blood, and each of them was originally an elite warrior in their respective tribes. After Shi Xiong equipped them with strong bows, steel knives and earthen grenade, these guys are actually a group of hedgehogs covered with thorns. If anyone dares to underestimate this group of logistics soldiers and want to bite a piece of meat on these logistics soldiers, they must first be prepared for the big teeth to be broken. To use a sentence that day, the supervisor of logistics soldiers learned from Shi Xiong: don't use bin bags as dry food, don't use logistics soldiers as vegetables. Although Day doesn't understand what a bin bun is or what a vegetable chicken is, this doesn't prevent this sentence from becoming a word on the lips of the logistics soldiers. Just like this, in the days before the expedition, all the preparations that the entire expeditionary army had made, waited for the day of the expedition to arrive, and then they went to the carry field to go wild. Chapter 327, Set Off. The 300 support soldiers who followed the Bone Spear came to the High Tree tribe as well as Chief Junaruska and the High Priest of Bakalazu. The two tribes of the Cherokee are united to conquer the Cree. No matter from which point of view it is considered, Chief Junaruska must come to the Gaoshu tribe to cheer for the expedition army. The High Priest of Bakalazu also needs to pray grandly for the soldiers of the expeditionary army. Of course, because of the High Priest Kabru, this time the prayer was carried out jointly by the two high priests. Although I don't know what the outcome of this expedition will be, this is a big event for the entire Cherokee tribe after all. What if this expeditionary army really defeats the Cree? Cree people have always been confident of the Cherokee people. Similarly, the Cherokee people are also confident of the Cree people. The two tribes are like two lions, looking at their opponents on their respective territories. Although both of them wanted to kill their opponents and make their ruling territory bigger, the almost same strength made these two behemoths throw each other's rats at each other again. The things displayed by the guardian of the Kabru high priest made Chief Junaruska and the high-level members of the tribe extremely tempted. The powerful firearms made them full of expectations for the expeditionary force to achieve good results. Although the news of the expeditionary force's expedition to the Cree did not spread to the Cherokee tribe, as chiefs and high priests, They must meet with these fighters before the expeditionary forces expedition. Whether it is to encourage the soldiers or the two high priests join forces to pray for the soldiers, Shi Xiong is not much interested. With this time, it's better to comfort Tep and Sira. These two little guys seem to have noticed that Dad is about to leave them again, so these two little guys have been reluctant to leave Shi Xiong's side these days. Especially Tep. There is a lot of stance that if anyone dares to take his father away, he will die with that person. But no matter how unwilling Tep to leave his father, the day of the expedition will inevitably come. On this day, the weather was fine, and the expeditionary force of 2,100 Cherokee men was finally about to set off. After more than 5 months of training, even the guys from the Crooked Deer's tribe are now very neatly walking in line. More than 2,000 warriors lined up in a neat line and walked through the training ground outside the Gaoshu tribe. The rushing steps made all the high-level tribes including Chief Junaruska dumbfounded. Where have they seen such a neat team? Especially the kind of murderous aura that such a neat team inadvertently exudes is even more chilling. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Chief Junaruska couldn't believe that these guys were Cherokee guys. You must know that more than half a year ago, even when these men were fighting with the Chicashes, they were all swarms of Yuayang. How could such a neat line appear? The most important thing is that the spirit of this team is really shocking. If Chief Junaruska was a little worried about the expeditionary army before, then when he saw this team full of spirit, the worry in his heart had long since disappeared. Such a mighty and majestic team, Chief Junaruska can't think of anyone else who can defeat this team, and what enemies can't be conquered by this team. Tepu yelled and hugged the thigh of the stone bear but refused to let go. In the end, if it wasn't for the green skylark, it is estimated that this guy really would not let the old man go. It's strange to say that this guy Tep is not afraid of anything. He didn't even listen to what Baiyun said at the beginning, but he was only terribly afraid of Green Skylark. The ghost knew how Green Skylark trained. Seeing the old man riding the fire phoenix to leave, Tep yelled at the stone bear. The Green Skylark had to drag it to the stone bear, and the stone bear got off the horse again, comforting Tep, and then the Green Skylark directly he gave Shi Xiong a big hug. Be sure to come back safely, remember, your home is here, I'm waiting for you at home, and Tep and Sila are waiting for you at home, Green Skylark said softly in Shi Xiong's ear, and then let go. After driving the stone bear, he pulled the yelling Tep and left the stone bear. Ishikama looked at the Green Skylark leaving behind for a long time, and finally nodded heavily. Because there are more than 200 bullock carts, the expeditionary force appears to be relatively large. As Stone Bear's deputy, Kara Klelu personally blew the horn, and then the huge team slowly left the Gaoshu tribe in the prayer etiquette of many tribesmen and marched towards the northeast of the tribe. Between the Cree tribe and the Cherokee tribe, there is a continuous mountain of fog, so if you want to reach the territory of the Cree people, you must pass through this sky. As early as when he decided to take action against the Cree, Stone Bear sent a large number of scouts, letting these scouts explore the marching route along the rivers scattered in the Great Smoky Mountains. Cherokees have lived in this area for hundreds of years, so some tribes of the local tribes still know the route. Finally, after a comprehensive analysis of the information obtained by these scouts, Shi Xiong chose a route. This route starts from the Gaoshu tribe, heading northeast, arriving at the confluence of the two tributaries of the Tennessee River, and then heading south along the French Broad River Valley, one of the two tributaries of the Tennessee River. www.wuxiaspa.com As one of the two source tributaries of the Tennessee River, the French Broad River opened up a valley in the Great Smoky Mountains. As long as you walk south along this valley, you can reach the later Ashnear Vale, and then proceed eastward along the Catawba River Valley from that location, and you will reach Charlotte in the later United States. As long as you arrive in Charlotte, you will be able to face the Cree directly. Although this area still belongs to the Yukai people's territory, but now the Yukai people have been completely helpless, and now the Carrie people have extended their tentacles to this area. After all, at this time, not only the Stone Bear wanted to convince the Cree, but also the Cree's chief Karamako, who was also persuaded by the Bighorn, began to prepare to do something against the Cherokee. After seeing the power of the Cherokee's muskets and unscrupulous cannons, the Bighorn chief has become deeply wary of Cherokee's life. Under his persuasion, the chief of the Cree, Karamako, also agreed to take action against the Cherokee after the beginning of spring. The principle of first strike is still valid among North American Indians. Therefore, as early as last fall, the Carrie people began to send troops to the territory where the Yukai people were entrenched. In the Bighorn chief's plan, once the strength of the troops there meets the requirements, then the Cree warriors can directly jump over the blue fog and start a war against the Cherokee. This is why the Expeditionary Army came to the vicinity of Charlotte after more than a month of arduous trek, and the scouts who came out found a large number of Cree fighters in the first time. Chapter 328, It and number 039:S All Scum. The Lynx was one of the earliest people that the Stone Bear knew after the soul passed. As early as the Shaggy Cattle tribe, the Lynx was the best scout in the Shaggy Cattle tribe. When the Shaggy Cattle tribe was attacked by the Chicashes, it was the Lynx who ran to the top of the mountain and lit the smoke. But unfortunately, even if the smoke was lit, it failed to save the fate of the Shaggy Cattle tribe. Later, the Lynx followed Jaoniu and Stone Bear to the Gaoshu tribe and became an elite warrior of the Gaoshu tribe. Since he is his own, Shi Xiong will naturally not forget the Bobcat. After all, Shi Xiong now calls Bobcat's uncle. The Lynx serves as a squad leader of the scout troops in the Expeditionary Army, and is responsible for leading 6 scouts to conduct detections within an area of about 50 miles in front of the large troops to ensure the safety of the large troops. Originally, Shi Xiong wanted the Bobcat to be the leader of the scout force to lead the entire scout force. However, the Bobcat said that he didn't want to do anything. In his words, "I was born to be a man in the mountains and forests. Personally, I can still do it. Let me lead a scout team of hundreds of people. I am not that piece of material. You should let me move freely in the mountains and forests." Lynx's words made Shi Xiong unable to refute, so the Lynx became a scout team leader in the scout team. Now, the Lynx with 2 arrow wounds on his body and several other more tragic scouts appeared in front of Stone Bear. They have a lot of people, and they are stationed in a big valley about 40 miles ahead. I can't estimate how many people there are, but they can definitely match the number of 10 high tree tribes. And they also have scout teams. My team and I were injured when we encountered their scout team in the mountains and forests. Their scout team is very crowded, with more than 30 people in their hands. Each of us has a strong bow. If we didn't have horses, maybe I can't come back. Are you sure you are from Cree? Kiaulakrilu asked. Shi Xiong said, Jolaklilu, since Uncle Lynx said that they are Cree, then those people must be Cree. I can't confirm this. Uncle Lynx is the best scout of our Gaoshu tribe. He is. You can't read it wrong. Lynx nodded proudly. A man beside the Bobcats with 4 arrow wounds on his body said to Jolakrilu, Boss, those people are indeed Cree, and we all recognize them. But there are too many of them, and we are not opponents. This guy Shi Xiong also knew him, and he was an excellent scout in the Crooked Ears tribe. Sure enough, after the guy had said these things, Jolakrilu no longer doubted, but he still frowned and said, Guardian, what should we do? According to the Bobcats, the Cree is in that valley. At least 10,000 people have been gathered in China. Are we their opponents? After a pause, Karaklilu began to pace in place. How did these Cree people gather here? This is already close to the border with our tribe. Are the Cree people trying to attack our tribe? Stone Bear did not answer Kiaulakrilu's question, but called the medical soldiers. These medical soldiers were only called together under the reminder of Green Skylark. At the beginning, Shi Xiong patronized the Expeditionary Army, but ignored the medical soldiers who were very important in the war in this era. Later, during a meal, Green Skylark inadvertently asked what to do if there were wounded in the Expeditionary Army, and Shi Xiong realized that he had overlooked a very important issue. But fortunately, there is still time, so Shi Xiong summoned 100 strong women from the tribe and gave them some simple wound treatment techniques. Medical methods such as washing the wound with alcohol, how to dress the wound, how to stitch the wound, etc. Although Shi Xiong has not personally done this kind of work in his previous life, he still said that he has never eaten pork and has seen pigs run, and he is in an information explosion. How could the stone bear of the age not know how to do this kind of work? After more than 3 months of training, these 100 women became a qualified medical soldier. Momoko led a group of women to brew a large amount of high-grade alcohol in those 5 months, which is life-saving on the battlefield. In this era, many people who died in war were not directly killed by the enemy, but the wounded died from wound infections. Therefore, this kind of simple wound debridement, wound suture and bandaging can save a living person in many cases. 2 strong female medical soldiers dealt with a wounded person. More than a dozen people were very agile and carried all the 7 wounded members of the Bobcats scout team for treatment. The Bobcats were not fatally wounded, they were all shot by bone arrows used by the Cree. Because the power of bone arrows is limited, and they are all riding war horses, even though some people have 5 arrows on their bodies, they are not fatal injuries. These medical soldiers were treated in accordance with the battlefield medical care methods. A few days later, these people were again alive and well. After doing all this, Shi Xiong said, "Actually, this is normal. We want to do something to the Cree. Why can't the Cree do it to us?" Don't forget that the Cree were sent to our tribe, the messenger of Wang Ting. That guy had fought against me, although we did not meet in person www.wuxiaspot.com, but when he commanded Yu Chiren to fight against me, he must have seen the great power of firearms. And that guy commanded Yu Chiren, when fighting against me, he also showed a very high command level, and he is a very powerful guy. You mean the Cree called the Bighorn Sheep? Kiao La Krialu asked. He naturally recognizes the Bighorn Sheep, the messenger of the Cree tribe. I don't know what the guy's name is, but if I were that guy, I would definitely try to persuade the chief of the Cree to agree to do something with the Cherokee, because I know that once the firearms are given to Kai, when the Rockies developed and promoted firearms among the tribes, it would be a disaster for the Cree. Once the Cherokees, who have a population similar to the Cree, possess a large number of firearms, then the Cree, even if the number of people is 3 times as large, they can only be obediently waiting for the fate of being slaughtered. So, Shi Xiong shrugged. This is the fundamental reason why the Cree people gather so many warriors in that valley. The Cree people really want to do something to our tribe, because they are scared. So they want to act first. Hey, can we kill them? Kara Klaru said with a smile. I have only fought the Chikashas in my life, and I have never fought with the Cree. I don't know. How are the Cree people? Are they really as powerful as the legends? Shi Xiong curled his lips disdainfully and said, no matter whether he is strong or not, in front of our muskets and grenadiers, they are all scum. Joe Lakrilu laughed. Haha. Chapter 329. Build a position. Day. Now I order you to lead the logistics troops to station in place, and assist other soldiers to prepare all the ammunition and materials that should be prepared. Day is not only the 4 major warriors of the Crooked Deer tribe, Kui, who deserves the most force. Kui, a member of the Crooked Deer tribe, is second only to Kara Klilu in prestige. The logistics soldiers were mostly composed of warriors from the Crooked Deer's tribe, so Shi Xiong asked him to be the military supervisor of the logistics soldiers. Although Day also wanted to be with his brothers and fight the enemy, he also knew the importance of logistics, so he readily agreed to Shi Xiong's order and became the military director of the Expeditionary Army Logistics. Of course, he just doesn't agree. After 5 months of training, all the expeditionary forces now know one thing, that is, the military order falls like a mountain. As long as the military order is reached at once, there is no room for bargaining at all, and you can only go all out to complete the task. Takanayu, I order your grenadier troops to reach this position at this time. As Shi Xiong's closest relatives, Shi Xiong naturally wants to give him the command of the most important bullet grenadier unit. The grenadier has a long range, a high rate of fire, and it is placed behind the musketeers, so the safety is much higher than that of the musketeers in front. Shi Xiong didn't want Jiao Naiu, his only relative with blood in the world, to die on the battlefield in confusion, so he gave Jiao Naiu the command of the grenadier unit. Quick, horse, I order your musketeers to follow around the grenadier troops and protect the safety of the grenadier troops until they establish a position in the designated area. And you musketeers also need to establish well in the grenadier troops, to build your position. After the position, we need to teach the Carry people a severe lesson in this position. As Shi Xiong's best partner, Kuai Ma is also the person who is most familiar with muskets. Shi Xiong, the commander of the musketeers, will naturally be in his hands. Guerrilla, I order you. Following a series of orders in Shi Xiong's mouth, the commanders of various military departments soon began to lead their own troops to execute the orders according to the orders. Soon, all the soldiers who participated in the first battle were there. About 30 miles away from the current camp area of the Cree people, they have established their position at the mouth of a valley, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Cree people. This valley is actually a river valley, the Catawba River Valley that must pass from Asheville to Charlotte. Now the Stone Bears are located in this valley, and the Cree's troops are there, settled in a basin about 30 miles away from the valley. Since we want to stop the Carry people, or teach the Carry people a big lesson, then how to choose the battlefield has become a key issue. The number of Cree is far more than that of the expeditionary force, and the huge gap in population can sometimes bridge the gap caused by weapons. Therefore, in order to ensure that the expeditionary army does not engage in close combat with the Cree, it is necessary to choose a battlefield that is conducive to the expeditionary army's operations. The exit of the Catawba Valley is obviously an ideal battlefield. The Catawba River shuttles in the remnants of the east side of the fog. The turbulent river has taken tens of thousands of years to cut a deep valley in this mountain. The end of the river valley presents a trumpet shape, and its width rapidly expands from more than 500 meters to about 1 kilometer. The turbulent Catawba River is also rapidly widening in this trumpet, from a width of only more than 100 meters to a width of more than 300 meters. Occupying the area north of the exit of the river valley. On the south side of the river is a flat area about 200 meters wide and more than 500 meters long. The expeditionary force built a position at the bottom of this area. 350 grenadiers built a grenadier position at the bottom of the river valley. 170 grenadiers were divided into 2 rows with a distance of more than 2 meters from each other. They lined up this flat area. The bottom of the musketeer was completely sealed, and the 700 musketeers were separated by 2 meters from each other, arranged in 4 rows to block the grenadiers in front. As for the 300 guerrillas, Shi Xiong sent out 200 men to protect the mountain on the south side of the river valley, and the remaining 100 men were arranged by the musketeers for protection. Because there is a wide Catawba River to the north of the valley, there is no need to worry about the Cree coming around from the north. If the Cree wants to advance or eat the expeditionary army, they can only attack from the front. Although the mountain on the south side is not too high, only less than 200 meters in size, it is very steep and difficult to climb. It is not easy for the Cree to climb the mountain from the south and attack the grenadiers and musketeers from the side. Not to mention that Stone Bear also arranged 200 guerrillas on this mountain. These guerrillas carried a large number of arrows and carried 5 unscrupulous cannons. Once the Cree wanted to climb the mountain from the south, the guerrillas who had a geographical advantage would inflict heavy damage on the Cree with a flood of arrows and powerful unscrupulous cannons. This position is already the best that Stone Bear can think of. www.wuxiaspot.com. And because of the limitations of the river valley, even the Cree desperately attacked and broke the blockade of guerrillas or musketeers. Then the grenadier in the rear can quickly retreat for a certain distance, and then build a position in situ, and continue to use the advantage of the long range of the grenadier to block the retreat of the musketeers and guerrillas in front. That is, if the Cree break through the valley mouth by virtue of the number of people, Shi Xiong is not worried. His grenadiers and musketeers can fully take advantage of their long range to retreat in turn, and continue from the retreat, consume the soldiers of the Cree. The position was quickly constructed. Although it is very simple, it can maximize the safety of the expeditionary soldiers. 30 miles away, the Cree scouts obviously hadn't found the expeditionary force at the mouth of the valley. According to the news brought back by the expeditionary scouts, The Cree scouts were still gathering there, as if they didn't mean to rush. How can this work? It has now entered the spring, and this area in the southeast foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains will soon enter the rainy season. Once the rainy season comes, it is not a good thing for the expeditionary forces using firearms. Since you don't come out, let's take you out. Therefore, 100 musketeers with superb riding skills, carrying muskets, rode the only 100 horses in the expeditionary army and left the position of the expeditionary army. Under the leadership of the Bone Spear, these 100 musketeers quickly disappeared into the distant hills. They will use the mobility of the horses to harass the Cree's base camp in the next few days, as much as possible. Attract the Cree to the exit of the Catalba Valley. Chapter 330. Flee without a fight. The task of Bone Spear was very good. He just took these lancers to harass the Carry 3 times in a row, and a large group of Carry chaotically followed the Bone Spear and they ran from the hilly area in the distance. Came out. The stone bear standing on a high place can see the scene below clearly, and the stone bear can see that this part of the Cree seems to be at odds with the Cree people who are stationed 30 miles away. Don't ask Shi Xiong how he saw it, he just saw it. Even a fool can see that the Cree has a problem now, and it is a big problem. Shi Xiong dared to use his head to bet that these Cree people who followed them with Bone Spear were definitely not willing to follow them. The stone bear standing on a high place has a good vision. Although he can't see the expressions of the Cree people, he can see that the Cree people are acting loosely and slowly. It seems that they are not chasing the enemy, but dealing with things. That's right, these Carry people who were chasing Shi Xiong felt that they were dealing with things. This can be seen from their slower and slower pace. Shi Xiong even saw some of the Cree people at the end secretly. He turned his head and ran away. Obviously, these Cree chasing gangs are not willing to chase them. They are more like being coerced to chase Bone Spears. Shi Xiong also found it strange, so he did not give an order to attack these Cree at the first time. These people almost look like less than 2,000 people, excluding those who fled in the middle. When these people chase down to 400 to 500 meters away from the musketeers' position, the number of these Cree people is about less than that left. Looks like 1,500 people. But at this moment, they suddenly stopped in unison. Obviously, they also saw the dense musketeers on the opposite side. Then, the scene that made Shi Xiong almost burst into laughter happened. The Carry people didn't know who screamed, and then these people turned around again and started running back, and some people fled to the sides, as if they were followed by a large group of eyes hungry behind their ass. The Green Wolf. Shi Xiong was a little dumbfounded. He had thought about countless scenes, but he had never thought about it. Could this be the legendary escape without a fight? Although Shi Xiong was a little unbelievable, the facts before him made him have to shake his head and smile bitterly. Kuai-ma quickly rode a horse from the gentle to Shi Xiong's side. Guardian, these guys chasing Bone Spears are not Cree people, but Yukai people who have been defeated by us. Hearing what Kuai-ma said, Shi Xiong understood why these people fled. Obviously, the Cree wanted to do something against the Cherokee. Since it is necessary to do it, the Cree people will inevitably contact everyone who can be contacted. The Yuchi are an affiliated tribe of the Cree. In the face of such a big event, the Yuchi will inevitably be recruited by the Cree. Regardless of the fighting power of these Yuchi people, in the eyes of the Carry people, these recruited Yuchi people are like cannon fodder. It is estimated that the commander of the Cree was harassed by Bone Spear and the others, but he did not want the entire army of the Cree to chase more than 100 people in this area, so he sent out the Yuchi. Since it is cannon fodder, it must have the consciousness of cannon fodder. Isn't this kind of thing to test the enemy exactly what you should do? But the question is, this is what the commander of the Cree thinks, why is Yukai willing to be cannon fodder? So of course they are reluctant to implement such orders. In particular, 100 Cherokee musketeers riding war horses were chasing UK, who was severely abused by Stone Bear's expedition team last year, may have collectively suffered from a phobia of musketeers, especially the 100 expedition squad who rode horses and carried muskets on the battlefield. How will like the harassment team in front of you? Last year, They were abused several times by 100 Cherokee musketeers. Not only did the new chief lose their lives, thousands of people and soldiers also died under the guns of those terrible musketeers. Now, those Cherokee musketeers riding war horses have appeared again. If these Yukai people are willing to chase after them, it would be a strange one. But the commander's order they could not fail to carry out. In the end, in this dilemma, the scene that Shi Xiong had seen before happened. Especially when these Yachi saw more musketeers appearing in front of them, the fear left to them by the two battles last year suddenly made them unable to keep calm anymore. Last year, a mere 100 Cherokee musketeers killed thousands of Yukai people, and now there are many more musketeers in front of you than there were last year. It's no wonder that Yukai people don't collapse. So, the Yuchiren who had just chased him fled without a fight. Shi Xiong really wants to know how big the psychological shadow of these Yukai people is. I thought I could teach the Carry people a lesson, but this kind of dumbfounding happened. Bone Spear's harassment is equivalent to not having any effect. Shi Xiong followed quickly down the mountain and called several commanders together. Master, Guardian, www.wuxiaspad.com. Those Cree people are obviously unwilling to pursue us. I think that all the fighters who should be Cree people have not assembled yet. They don't want to leave there now, so they will send these Yachi people to chase us. We, Bone Spear, as the leader of the Bone Spear tribe, one of the 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee royal court, naturally looks at the problem very thoroughly. Shi Xiong nodded and said, Bone Spear, since those Cree people are unwilling to chase you, then we will find a way to make those Cree people have to chase you. Those Cree people have to fight with us here. Leaving the location here, when we face so many Cree people, there will definitely be a lot of casualties. This is something I don't want to see. A group of people around nodded. The 5-month training not only allowed them to understand how to make their subordinates obey their orders, but also made them understand that as a commander, the soldiers under them can win the premise. Next, it is the duty of a commander to survive on the battlefield. So, Shi Xiong looked at the commanders around him. I decided to use a part of the bullet to directly attack the Cree camp. Since the commander of the Cree does not want to chase Bone Spear and the more than 100 people, it is obviously because the Bone Spear and their harassment team did not hurt the Cree. Bone Spear, you will continue to set off tomorrow morning and take 10 grenades and the corresponding ammunition. Bombed me with grenades at a distance of about 400 steps from the Cree camp. Be careful not to expose the maximum range of the grenades too early. We can't let the Crees know the range of the tossing barrel. Aren't they not coming out? Just blow them out with grenades. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331, Anti-Aircraft Guns to Fight Mosquitoes. When the horn sounded in the distance, a smile appeared on Shi Xiong's face. He immediately mounted the Fire Phoenix and quickly came to the tall hill to the south of the valley exit. After a while, they saw the Bone Spear and their horses riding out from behind a hill in the distance. Bone Spears and their speed are not very fast. Obviously they have been hanging behind the chasing soldiers. The horn sound was agreed in advance, 3 long and 2 short, which meant that the Bone Spear had attracted the Cree's large army. Sure enough, after a long while, a large cloud of yellow dust rose up from the hills in the distance, which was the dust aroused when a large number of people walked. The stone bear drew out a horn and blew it in a rhythm of 1 long and 2 short. Then the troops below were immediately ready, and the Bone Spears also accelerated their speed and quickly ran a few kilometers. Smoothly returned to the military formation. Shi Xiong waited for a while, and then Bone Spear rode up to him. So smoothly, are all those Cree people attracted? Shi Xiong asked. It's very smooth, mainly because our bullets are too powerful. Bone Spear had an irrepressible smile on his face. When we first arrived at the place where the Cree were stationed, the Cree did not pay attention to us. We shot and harassed them like before, and they didn't make any big moves. It is estimated that those Yukai people who fled back yesterday told the Carry people about the power of the firearms in our hands. I think the Carry people ignore us, so I just let the brothers dismount their horses and set up grenades, and hit 7 or 8 rounds of grenades, directly giving the Cree camp to the friar. Blew up many Cree people, right? Shi Xiong asked with a smile. Yeah, Bone Spear nodded. I used to blow rocks, trees, etc. in training. This time I finally used it on the Cree. The power of this bullet-throwing barrel is really great. Our bullet-throwing barrel is really powerful. On average, 7 or 8 grenades were fired per door, and it is estimated that more than 1,000 Cree people died under these grenades. Those Cree people finally can't help it now. Yes, we killed so many of them. At least more than half of the remaining Cree people chased us down immediately. It is estimated that there will be at least 10,000 people. Yeah, then you really did not toss the Carry people this time. Shi Xiong smiled. These Cree people obviously want to fight our tribe. We are already enemies with them. It's just a trifle to kill so many of them at once. It's only a trivial thing to wait for those Cree people to come to us. It's time to let them know how great it is. Yes, we have been preparing for so long. If you don't scare these Cree people, wouldn't you be too sorry for your long training? Bone Spear nodded heavily. For him, if there were doubts and worries about more than 2,000 people from the expeditionary military district who came to conquer the Cree, then this is the first time that the Grenadier has been used in actual combat today. The tremendous power of the Grenadier is it also added countless confidence to him. Go down and prepare. After the Cree arrive here for a while, there will be a hard fight, Shi Xiong said. The Bone Spear nodded, urging the horse under the hip, and quickly ran down the mountain along the path that was stepped on. Shi Xiong turned his head and looked at the rising dust in the distance again. After waiting for a long time, the leading troops of the Carry people appeared from behind the hills. Shi Xiong took out the single scope and looked over. Although it wasn't very real, the appearance of the Cree also made him sigh helplessly. It's not that Shi Xiong is afraid of the large number of Carry people, but because in his eyes, these Carry people are really too miserable. At the very least, these Carry people who just showed up are really no different from a bunch of beggars. They are all wrapped in animal skin clothes, bows and arrows on their backs, bone sticks, stone axes, wooden sticks, stone knives and other messy weapons in their hands. If the soldiers of these pioneers still have some weapons, then the Carry people behind are even more miserable. Shi Xiong even saw that many Carry men didn't even have a decent weapon, and they only carried 2 stones in their hands. Although there are many teams like this, what combat effectiveness can they have? When the braided soldiers fought with the 8-power allied forces, their equipment was 100 times better than those of the Cree. Even though the braid soldiers used cold weapons at that time, the braid soldiers still had a lot of firearms in their hands. But even so, there were 110,000 braid soldiers, but they were defeated by the 8-nation coalition, which was nominally 50,000 and actually only had 20,000. The Carry people nowadays, they don't even have an iron knife in their hands. They are really no better than a group of beggars. The reason Shi Xiong sighed is because he felt that facing such a poor Carry, it was simply using anti-aircraft guns to hit mosquitoes. Through the binoculars, the Stone Bear saw more and more Cree people appearing from behind the distant hills, and several Cree people on horseback appeared on the distant hills. That is the commander of the Cree or the leader of some large tribes. www.wuxiaspa.com. Those Cree people who are standing on the hills obviously also discovered the situation on the valley side. So accompanied by a melodious with the sound of the horn, the noisy Cree stopped their advance. However, these Cree people quickly became imageless or sat or lay down. For half a day, they chased the Bone Spear with 2 legs for more than 30 miles. They must have been exhausted long ago. It is estimated that the commander of the Cree also realized that the strength of these tribal warriors was reaching the limit, so he blew the horn to stop advancing. Shi Xiong estimated that these Cree people should not be able to attack today. Sure enough, he waited not long before seeing countless cooking smoke rising from the Cree people. Chased for more than 30 miles, it is estimated that the stomachs of these Cree people have long been empty. In the absence of physical strength, as long as their commander is not a fool, It is absolutely impossible for their fighters to attack the expeditionary army at this time. And the enemy's commander is estimated to send scouts to observe the situation on the expeditionary side. Sure enough, not long after more and more smoke rose up, a dozen war horses ran from the Cree to this side. Stone Bear waved the red flag in his hand, and a series of commands immediately sounded below. For these dozen scouts, Shi Xiong didn't want to expose the power of the musket. He waved the red flag, which meant not to shoot. But although shooting is not allowed, there are 300 guerrillas with strong bows below. Chapter 332, Wooden Shield Warrior. Shi Xiong's judgment was correct. The Cree did not launch an attack at night, but took a good time to adjust for up to 2 days. This makes Shi Xiong very helpless. No way. In this era, almost all wars between North American Indian tribes are like this. Just like the street gangsters of later generations, an appointment was made, and then a place was chosen. The people on both sides were gathered together, and finally the two gangs began to fight. Things like the Chickasaws' attack on the Cherokee tribe and the Yuchi's attack on the Zio tribe are rare. But even if the Chickasaws constantly attacked the Cherokee tribe, it was because the Cherokees were too powerful, and the Chickasaws did not dare to fight face-to-face with the Cherokees. They did this hundreds of years ago, and the result was that the Chickasaws were completely driven to the west of the Everglades, and 2/3 of their tribe's original territory was occupied by the Cherokees. Therefore, the Chickasaw can only constantly vent their anger through this sneak attack. Of course, this kind of sneak attack is not always as successful as the attack on the Long-Hair Cattle tribe and the Pumpkin Bay tribe. In fact, the Chickasaws fail to attack the Cherokee tribe every year much more often than they succeed. As for the Yuchi's sneak attack on the Zio tribe, they had almost succeeded in the first place, but they were completely destroyed by the Stone Bear that suddenly came out. Therefore, in the war between North American Indian tribes in this era, sneak attacks are rare, and most of the combat methods are this kind of upright frontal hard steel. The Cree scout must have seen the situation of the expeditionary army clearly, and then the Cree commander slowly adjusted without worry. After all, the expeditionary army has only 2,000 people, but the Cree has gathered close to 20,000 people. Even if the Cree's commander, Bighorn Sheep, has seen the power of firearms, he also attaches great importance to the Cherokee holding firearms, but in his heart he would not think that his 20,000 people would beat the opponent's 2,000 people. The huge population gap cannot be made up by a few hundred muskets. Even if the Cherokee who came to harass us 2 days ago used a terrible thing that can kill a lot of people, it can be seen that the Bighorn Sheep who have seen the power of unconscionable guns think that the power of that kind of thing is based on the unconscious. The power of the cannon is still far behind. The most important thing is that Bighorn Sheep thinks that Cherokee people cannot possibly possess many terrible things. When he commanded Uchiran to hunt down the more than 100 Cherokee in Uchiran's territory last year, although he was finally bombed by the Stone Bear with a conscience cannon and collapsed, he also analyzed the conscience cannon of the expedition team afterwards. This kind of terrifying weapon that is almost the same as the anger of the gods, the Cherokee will certainly not have many. When dealing with the Spaniards to the south, the Bighorn Sheep had seen the power of the Spanish naval guns, and the Spaniards told the Bighorn that the cost of this naval gun was extremely high, and it was also very difficult to cast. The power of the conscientious cannons used by the expedition team is far greater than that of the Spaniards, so the Bighorn thinks that the Cherokee cannot have a large number of conscientious cannons. The most important point is that Bighorn Sheep always firmly believes that the powerful Cree fighters are far beyond the ignorant Yukai people. When those Yukai people ordered to pursue the harassing squad 2 days ago, they were actually fighting. The Rocky fled without a fight. The powerful Cree warrior can never do this kind of escape without a fight. Perhaps in the battle with the Cherokee, the brave Cree warriors will die a lot, but the ultimate victory must be the Great Cree. Although the Cherokee Expeditionary Army on the opposite side occupies a favorable terrain, and has muskets and powerful weapons in its hands, the Bighorn Sheep never thought that the tribal fighters would lose the war. 20,000, 2,000, this huge gap is enough to smooth everything out. It is based on this judgment that the Bighorn Sheep will launch an offensive against the Cherokee Expeditionary Army without a haste. He has to gather all the people, adjust the state of the soldiers, and finally take these Cherokee in a hurry, kill all the base people. The strategic intent of the Bighorn Sheep has been realized. Although the brave fighters under his command have been asking for a direct attack on the Cherokee positions, they have been suppressed by the Bighorn Sheep. The Bighorn Sheep is also very satisfied with the atmosphere of the fight. Although morale cannot be seen nor touched, it is definitely a very important thing to be entangled in the station. Now the soldiers of the Cree tribe have high morale, which is what makes the Bighorn Sheep very satisfied. 2 days passed in a flash, except for the warriors of some tribes who are still on the way. All the warriors of the whole tribe that can be put together are gathered. The number of fighters is close to 20,000. This is already close to 2/3 of the fighting power of the entire Cree. In the eyes of Bighorn Sheep, with such a large number of fighters, it is enough to smooth out all the obstacles blocking the advancement of the tribe. If the Cherokee had enough warriors, then the Bighorn Sheep might not be so sure. I'm reading www.whokenshoe.com. But there are only 2,000 people on the opposite side. If the 2,000 people can't be destroyed, then the entire Cree will be a joke. Therefore, when the Bighorn Sheep as the commander saw the tribal warriors ready to go early on the 3rd day, he felt that the war had been won on his own side. Take a look. Our side is more than 20,000 elite fighters. The soldiers are holding various weapons in their hands, and their morale is high. Maybe our weapons are not as powerful as your muskets, but you can't deal with 10 people with a musket anyway, right? As long as our fighters can rush into the range of the bow and arrow, what if you have a musket? Not to mention that we have already figured out a good way to deal with your muskets. Take a look at the 2,000 strongest soldiers standing in the front. The 1-inch thick plank in their hands is the best thing to deal with your muskets. These elite fighters who were supposed to kill all quarters on the battlefield, now each can only hold such a huge wooden shield to shield the brothers behind from the lead bullets of the rifle. Although they have lost the qualification to kill the enemy, it is the existence of these wooden shield warriors that will weaken the power of the Cherokee's muskets by at least half. In order to get these big wooden shields, the tribe has spent a lot of materials. Now is the time to test whether this method can withstand Cherokee muskets. Looking at these high-spirited warriors below, the Bighorn Sheep roared, "My brothers, for the tribe, kill the Cherokee on the other side." Chapter 333, Dense Formation. The assembly of the Carrie let everyone in the Expeditionary Army know that today will be a day of killing. The gathering of nearly 20,000 people made a lot of noise. In addition, the tens of thousands of Cree people would yell at them from time to time, and it was difficult for the Expeditionary Army to just not want to pay attention. So Shi Xiong carried his big bow and dozens of arrows and rode on the Fire Phoenix again to the hill at the southern end of the position. Today, he will be the commander-in-chief to command the Expeditionary Army against the Cree. Although Shi Xiong said that he had never done such a job in his previous life and this life combined, he is a person who has traveled through the information explosion era after all, and he is also a half-hearted military fan. In addition, he has also seen a lot about war movies, TV and documentaries, so he is quite sure about directing the battle. Don't worry about the north of the Expeditionary Army's position. The wide river channels and turbulent waters of the Catawba River are the best protection for the position. To the south of the position are mountains with elevations ranging from 200 meters to more than 500 meters. These mountains are not counted. It is very high, but they are all quite steep, and there are 200 guerrillas armed with strong bows on the top of the mountain. It is impossible for the Cree to break through from the south. Of course, with the Cree's tactical awareness, they would probably not think of the tactics of frontal containment and then double biting. When the North American Indians of this era fight, they only know the hard steel face to face. Even when the Bighorn Sheep was commanding the Uchiran to chase the expedition team, they finally got an advantage in a big duel. As a result, the expedition team directly defeated those chasing Yukai with the huge advantage of firearms. Although Shi Xiong doesn't know who the commander of the Cree is, He believes that the opposing commander will definitely make a full-scale attack after seeing the overwhelming advantage of his own number. Sure enough, when the stone bear had just climbed to the top of the mountain, a deep and melodious horn sounded on the opposite side. The next moment, the Cree warriors approaching 20,000 began to rush from the camp 3 kilometers away, a full-scale attack in the direction of the river valley. These Cree warriors may have experienced a lot of battles before, so they now seem to be more brave and smarter than the Yukai people. At the very least, these Cree people know how to conserve their stamina. Although they attacked in an all-round way, they didn't attack like a headless fly at first, but walked forward slowly. Therefore, even if it is walking slowly, as the saying goes, there is no bounds when there are tens of thousands of people. There are nearly 20,000 Carry people, spreading across the mountains and plains. Even if there is a distance of close to 3 kilometers apart, it still looks very shocking. Shi Xiong calmly raised the yellow flag in his hand and waved it 3 times in the air. The highest commander in the position below, Jolakrilu, began to loudly issue the command, "Be prepared for the impact." As the number 2 commander of the expeditionary force, Karaklilu stays in the position during the battle. The stone bear issues a series of commands and semaphores from a high place, and Karaklilu in the position will be in the first position. Time turned the order issued by the stone bear into words to tell the squadron leaders of each squadron of the expeditionary army, and then the soldiers completed the order issued by the stone bear. Compared with the command system that the Cree people have almost no command system, the command system that Shi Xiong came up with is simple, but it is still very useful in an expeditionary army with only more than 2,000 people. During the previous training, the expeditionary force had already verified the high efficiency of this command system. After the Carry people in the distance entered a distance of 1 kilometer, their advancing speed began to increase, and their front lines began to concentrate in the middle, and the entire battle formation gradually changed from the mountains and plains at the beginning to a huge triangle. At the forefront was a wooden shield warrior holding a huge wooden shield. Before Shi Xiong did not know that the Cree had arranged 2,000 high-strength soldiers to hold up wooden shields to guard against the expeditionary muskets, so when he saw through the telescope more than 2,000 wooden shields in front of the Cree after the warrior, he couldn't help but froze for a moment. He didn't expect the Cree to come up with such a trick. Obviously, the commander of the Cree obviously knew the power of the musket, and even this commander had personally felt the power of the musket, so he came up with these wooden shield warriors with heavy wooden shields. Shi Xiong's heart couldn't help but think of the Cree messenger named Bighorn Sheep who had seen him in the Cherokee Palace. Unexpectedly, we met again. Last time you commanded thousands of Yukai people to chase and intercept my expedition squad, and almost left the expedition squad in Yukai's territory. Now these Carry people are probably yours to command again, right? So, let's see if your 20,000 Cree soldiers are powerful, or my 2,100 expeditionary troops are powerful. Not to mention, the wooden shield warrior you made will really reduce the power of my musketeer. Now the lead bullet of the musket can't penetrate such a thick wooden shield. But what you don't know is that I only have a musket. In addition to the soldiers, there are more than 170 grenadier barrels, right? The musket can't penetrate your wooden shield, but the wooden shield in your hand is papery in front of the grenadier. With an inexplicable smile on the stone bear's face, he immediately raised 2 small yellow and red flags with both hands and began to wave them rhythmically. After seeing the semaphore from the stone bear, Jorakrilu below immediately raised the horn and shouted, "The musketeers will not shoot for now, waiting for the shooting order." www.wuxiaspot.com. The grenadier unit is ready to shoot. The Cree may have spotted the stone bear standing on the top of the hill waving a small flag. Thousands of people were separated from the large group immediately, and they went around in a small circle and directed towards the hill where the stone bear was. Ran over. For these Cree people, Shi Xiong didn't pay much attention to him. There were 200 guerrillas in front of him. Although these guerrillas have not become musketeers or grenadiers, they are all carefully selected archery masters, and their average strength is even higher than the original expedition team. Among these guerrillas, There are dozens of masters who can pull the strong bow completely, and most of the remaining fighters have a range of more than 130 meters. The guerrillas originally had the advantage of range, but they were still condescending, and they could increase the range of bows and arrows a lot. However, the Cree attacked from the back. Their bow and arrow shooting range would be much closer, and the hill was relatively steep, so Stone Bear had no doubt that these guerrillas were there. The Cree should rely on this area with more than 1,000 people, just want to capture this hill. That is pure dreaming. The formation of the Cree's large forces has become more and more concentrated. The 2,000 wooden shield soldiers in the front lined up in 2 rows, with almost no separation between them. The large wooden shields are connected to the direction of the Cree's advancement. It's all protected. In order to obtain the maximum protection of the wooden shield, the Cree formation at the rear has also become denser. The Cree's formation made the Stone Bear smile. But the Cree got closer and closer, and even broke through the farthest range of the Grenadier, but the Stone Bear remained motionless like a rock. Chapter 334, Pinch the Waist and Start the Head. Jolakriulu watched the tide of enemies rushing through a distance of 600 meters, but the Stone Bear on the top of the hill did not give any orders, and his face suddenly changed a little. Not only Jolakriulu, but also the complexion of most expeditionary soldiers in the position. Although the soldiers of the Expeditionary Army have been trained for 5 months, they were also elite fighters of the Crooked Deer tribe, but they have never seen such a big battle in their entire life. When they were fighting with the Chikasha before, the number of both sides increased. There were no more than 1,000 people when they got up the most, but now they are facing nearly 20,000 Cree people. It can be said that the Expeditionary Army is actually a group of rookies in front of such a big battler. The enemy is so powerful, it is considered very good that the soldiers of the Expeditionary Army can maintain the formation. Of course, the main reason for this is because of the 30 fighters of the High Tree tribe who served as the commander of the squadron and the commander. These 30 fighters have participated in the expedition team. They have fought thousands of Yuchi people in Yuchi. Although the number of Cree they are facing now is more, for these 30 fighters, they are just a little worried. As for the expressions of worry or even fear like other fighters of the Expeditionary Army, these 30 fighters of the Gaoshu tribe would never know. The reason why Shi Xiong handed over the positions of commander of the 3 brigade squadrons and squadron commander of more than 20 squadrons to these 30 soldiers was because he was worried that the expeditionary force would be frightened when facing tens of thousands of enemies. But if the backbone of the squadron and squadron leaders can maintain sufficient composure, then they will inevitably affect the fighters under them, so that these fighters will also be as calm as possible. Now it seems that the decision made by Ishikama was really right. Facing the nearly 20,000 Cree, although most of the expeditionary soldiers showed worried or even scared expressions, even Kara Klilu had a worried expression on their faces, but these 30 soldiers were the only ones still standing calmly to get their positions. It is precisely because of their composure that it greatly affected the ordinary soldiers. Although these ordinary fighters clenched their fists and their complexions changed, they still stood firmly in the battlefield like their captain. Seeing those Kari warriors holding large wooden shields rushing through a distance of 400 meters, even Kara Klilu's face began to show surprise. He looked at the unmoving figure on the top of the mountain, gritted his teeth and thought about it, and resisted the thought of asking in semaphore. Jolakrilu believes that the Guardian will not harm them. After all, the expedition was brought up by the Guardian, and it is absolutely impossible for him to fail the expedition. Sure enough, when the Cree screamed and rushed over a distance of 300 meters, the guerrillas standing on the top of the mountain even started shooting arrows down, and Kara Klilu finally saw the Guardian raise both sides of his hand. Flag. Kara Klilu stared closely at the 2 small flags in Stone Bear's hands with unprecedented attention, then raised the horn in his hand and began to shout loudly. The rear row of bullets is positioned 150 meters ahead. The front row is thrown. The bullet is positioned at a maximum range of 600 meters ahead. The enemy fires after entering the range of 150 meters. Amid the screams of the Cree, even if Jorkuru snarled with a trumpet, his voice was still drowned in the screams of the Cree. Fortunately, there were 5 loud-sounding messengers not far from Karakrilu, and these 5 messengers immediately ran and conveyed Karakru's orders to every corner of the position. With this command, I was already in the front row and worried that the musketeers would all straighten their chests, while the grenadiers behind the musketeers began to get busy. They need to follow the previous training, adjust the firing angle of the barrel in the shortest time. The entire expeditionary army position suddenly came to life at this moment. In fact, Shi Xiong did not expect that the Cree would come up with such a good way to deal with muskets. However, in the previous training, Shi Xiong also considered the situation where there were too many enemies and concentrated charges. And even the maximum range of a grenadier is only 600 meters. When tens of thousands of enemies charge, the length of the formation must be more than 600 meters. So if you want to cause the most damage to the enemy, you must pinch your waist and head your head. The so-called pinching of the waist and heading is to use half of the grenades to intensively bomb the waist of the charging enemy, so that the front and back of the enemy can be separated. The other half of the grenadiers will be matched with the musketeers' platoon guns to intensively bombard the divided front of the enemy. Only this kind of tactics can give the enemy the greatest blow. If it is done well, it may be able to directly destroy the enemy. After all, there is no such thing as a straight line in the world at this time, and dense battle formations are popular in this era, but toss the bullet is extremely lethal for the dense battle formation. Although the caliber of the grenades is far inferior to the naval guns and fortress guns of this era, the grenade fired by the grenades is an out-and-out bomb, and the lethality of the flower bullet to the intensive battlefield is far more than that of the solid bullet. So in previous training, Shi Xiong has repeatedly carried out special training for this conceived situation. It is precisely because of training many times before that Shi Xiong gave such an order. Because even the Cree people figured out a way to restrain the musket with a wooden shield, but the wooden shield is no different from a piece of paper in front of a grenade fired by a grenadier. Ishikama clearly figured out what tactics should be used to deal with these Cree. Is the tactic of pinching the waist and heading the head trained before? The enemy's commander may have noticed the grenadiers used by the expeditionary force to harass the Carry people www.wuxiaspa.com, but they must have never imagined that the expeditionary force would have 170 grenadiers. So, they rushed up without scruples, and in order to avoid the muskets, they also put up this kind of intensive battle formation, which is simply a good thing for the stone bear. Seeing those Carry warriors holding wooden shields rushing through a distance of 200 meters, some expeditionary soldiers with good-looking eyes could even see the general appearance of those screaming Carry people, as well as some bits and pieces. Arrows shot out from behind the wooden shield, but they all landed far away from the expeditionary army's position without exception. The range of the Cree's bow and arrow is still far short. 190 meters, 180 meters, 170 meters. Seeing the Cree approaching closer and closer, the shuddering tragic horror rushed toward his face, and the stone bear standing on the top of the mountain slowly raised his right hand, held a small green flag in his right hand, and then, with the small flag waving down fiercely, Jolakrialu's slightly hoarse voice suddenly sounded fire. https://Genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 335, Bighorn Sheep. The Bighorn Sheep is the closest partner and subordinate of Chief Karumak of the Cree tribe. This war against the Cherokee can be said to have been launched by the two manpower masters of him and Chief Karumak. Although Chief Marco has lost the spirit and initiative he deserves, his courage and intelligence have never been lacking. So when he heard the explanation of the Bighorn Sheep, the chief of this large tribe with more than 100,000 people had already decided to attack the Cherokees first. As the best partner and subordinate of Chief Marco, the Bighorn Sheep is also the leader of the Royal Guardian tribe that has fought against the Cherokee. He naturally became the highest commander of the Cree on the Cherokee expedition. Official. As the leader of the Guardian tribe of the Carry Royal Court, the Bighorn Sheep does not lack the wisdom that it deserves, nor does it lack courage and patience, especially after the fight against the terrifying big man on the territory of the Yuchi people. The Bighorn Sheep understand that if you want to fight with the Cherokee muskets, you must have enough people, and then rely on the absolute advantage of the number of people to smash the musketeers' formation in one go, so that you can win. For this neighbor in the north, the Bighorn Sheep has never worried. In the eyes of the Bighorn Sheep, although the Cherokees are strong enough, they are not the opponents of the more powerful Cree. It's just that the Cherokee had an extra musketeer army inexplicably, which made the Bighorn Sheep a little jealous. The Spaniards were active all year round in the later generations of Florida. This is also the territory of the Cree people, so the Bighorn Sheep knows the power of the musket, and knows that the musket is something that the Wasakshes forbid to trade with their natives. So the Bighorn Sheep wonder where the Cherokee muskets came from. In the end, the Bighorn Sheep thought it was the Wasakshes in the north that secretly traded with the Cherokee, but the number should not be very large. It is for this reason that the Bighorn Sheep argued fiercely with Colmarco in the great tent of the king's court. Colmarco wanted to start first, and organized a group of elite Carrie fighters to forcefully climb the Smog Mountain, and then deal a heavy blow to the scattered Cherokee. But under the persuasion of the Bighorn Sheep, Colmarco finally chose the Bighorn Sheep's battle plan, which is to gather more Cree fighters and crush the unprepared Cherokees with a huge number of people. Now, nearly 20,000 Carrie people have gathered, and they are confident enough to crush the unprepared Cherokee. What the Bighorn Sheep didn't expect was that they encountered a group of Cherokees holding firearms on their way forward. When the Cherokees came to harass them on horseback, the Bighorn Sheep was really worried for a while, so he ordered the people to remain calm and not to attack the Cherokees at will. After all, the opponent has muskets and horses. Neither the firepower nor the mobility can be comparable to the Carrie warriors. The Bighorn Sheep did not want his soldiers to make fearless sacrifices. It's just that following the Cherokees' harassment for 3 consecutive days, the Bighorn Sheep also saw that the Cherokee was bluffing. Because the Bighorn Sheep clearly saw that the 3 days of harassment were the same people. Perhaps, there are only so few Cherokee people who have muskets and war horses. This is the conclusion that Bighorn Sheep originally came to. After the spies on their own side revealed the information they found, the Bighorn Sheep even thought that the Cherokee was bluffing. Because the result given by several spies is that the other party only has more than 2,000 people. This makes the Bighorn Sheep more certain of his tactics, that is, relying on the number of people to crush the Cherokee. Although the Cherokee used a powerful weapon on the following day, the Bighorn Sheep who had seen the power of a conscientious gun believed that the Cherokee only had this thing, that kind of powerful weapon. Weapons are not so easy to get. The reason why the Cherokees do this is just bluffing. Therefore, even if a large number of tribesmen died during the Cherokee harassment that day, most of those tribesmen were fighters of the affiliated tribes, and the true elite fighters of the tribes were fine. What made Bighorn Sheep feel a little angry and helpless is that he originally sent Yukon people to chase the harassing team, and by the way, they attacked the Cherokees' front and tested the situation of the Cherokee, those cowardly Yukon people, fleeing without a fight. If it wasn't for the Bighorn Sheep who really didn't want to abandon these 2,000 Yuchi people, he would have ordered these cowardly Yuchi people to be driven out of his team. But Bighorn Sheep didn't plan to let go of these cowardly guys. Anyway, they are going to carry out a large-scale concentrated charge. Yuyukai will follow the Wooden Shield warriors in front and be the first group of death fighters. At that time, there will be Wooden Shield warriors who can withstand muskets in front, and the real elite warriors of the Cree tribe in the back. You gang of Yuchi who are greedy for life and fear of death are caught in the middle. See if you dare to run. Even if you want to run, there is nowhere to run. But the Bighorn Sheep also knows very well that although the Cherokee killed more than 1,000 people with that powerful weapon, the more they are at this time, the less they can panic. The number of such powerful weapons is certainly very small, otherwise the Cherokee would have rushed over with this weapon, instead of entrenched at the exit of the river valley like a tortoise with a shrunken head. Since this is the case, we should rectify the team properly, adjust the morale of the soldiers in the team to the best state, and finally smash the Cherokee positions with one effort. Maybe www.wuxiaspot.com can still seize the muskets and war horses in the hands of the Cherokee. Bighorn Sheep firmly believes that under the huge population gap, those Cherokee are destined to be crushed. It was with this idea that the Bighorn Sheep did not hurriedly direct the troops forward, and when they came to the opposite side of the Cherokee position, they did not hurriedly set up camp and repair, until the morale and body of the tribal warriors adjusted to the best condition. The Bighorn Sheep ordered a collective charge. As a commander, the Bighorn Sheep would naturally not charge along with the soldiers. He and a few guards stood on a small hill that was not too high, watching from a distance the morale of his fighters towards the Cherokee. The position charged. Looking at the mighty wooden shield warrior protecting the tribesmen behind like a mountain, the Bighorn Sheep is deeply proud of his great idea. Seeing that, with these powerful wooden shield warriors, the Cherokee people on the opposite side didn't even dare to fire their guns. Seeing that their soldiers rushed towards the Cherokee's position like a flood, those Cherokee people seemed to be frightened and stupid without any resistance, which made the Bighorn Sheep suddenly have a faint feeling when they were extremely excited. Disturbed. Especially when I saw that the wooden shield warrior in the front was about to touch the Cherokee position, the Bighorn Sheep only felt that the anxiety was getting stronger. https://Genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 336, Bloody Blank. The zealous Cree warriors held various weapons in their hands, and screamed like beasts in their mouths, as if they could sweep all floods and rush towards the Cherokee Expeditionary Army. The 2,000 wooden shield warriors running in the forefront were a little bit worried. After all, the Bighorn leader said that the Cherokees had muskets in their hands, and they had also seen the harassment of the Cherokees a few days ago. The power of firearms, especially the kind of weapons that resemble thunder, is even more chilling. But for the big wooden shield in their hands, these wooden shield warriors are still extremely confident, because when the Cherokees were harassed, a dozen of them held wooden shields and confronted the Cherokees. The Cherokees fired, but the lead shot of the rifle was completely cannot penetrate the wooden shield. This gave the wooden shield warriors at the forefront great confidence. When the charge started, these wooden shield fighters were worried that the Cherokee on the opposite side would use that kind of powerful firearm, but since the charge until now, not only did the Cherokee not use that kind of firearm, but they didn't even use the firearm, a lead bullet. Could the Cherokee be scared and stupid? This is most likely the case, because those Cherokees have never seen so many warriors. They must be scared stupid. Seeing that there are still more than 200 steps to rush into the Cherokee position, as long as they rush into the position, then the only end of the Cherokee is to be slaughtered cleanly. This is almost the idea of all Cree wooden shield warriors. They are charging at the front line, and the pressure is naturally the greatest. Seeing that there are still 200 steps away, they can rush into the enemy's position and start a frenzied massacre. These wooden shield warriors also made a scalp-tingling howl like chicken blood. The heavy shield in his hand continues to accelerate and charge forward. But at this moment, amidst the frenetic howls of Cree people everywhere, the wooden shield warrior rushing in front vaguely heard a roar of fire, and then in the next moment, almost all the carry rushing to the front, the people inside heard a series of muffled sounds like thunder. This series of thunder-like noises immediately caused the Cree people to stop subconsciously, and this was a mess. Because the Cree behind was still rushing forward frantically, it was such a pause, and there was a chaos behind the wooden shield warrior. But no one cares about the chaos at this time, because a series of sharp whistling noises have appeared on the heads of the wooden shield warriors, and these wooden shield warriors have heard such sounds. That day, when the Cherokees were harassing, they ended up using a terrifying weapon, and that weapon would make such a sharp whistling sound in the air before it exploded, and when the whistling sound stopped, it was the huge explosion, as if the thunder in the sky was angry, and lowered his anger. As a result, in a short span of time, thousands of people from different tribes lost their names. These wooden shield warriors all remember the horrible whistling sound that represents death. And now, this terrifying whistling sound resounded above their heads. Who can control the chaos behind? The Carry troops at the far rear continued to rush forward, while the Carry soldiers at the front of the team seemed to have been caught in the fixation technique, with desperate eyes in their eyes, standing there dazedly. In their line of sight, a large black dot on the top of their head is falling, almost between a breath. Those small black dots become bigger and bigger, and finally become a black iron ball the same size as their fist. There are even some good-eyed wooden shield warriors who can see the lines on the surface of the strange black iron balls. This may be the last scene that these wooden shield warriors can see during their lifetime. Because in the next moment, as many as 80 grenades were about 5 or 6 meters apart from each other, whizzing down on the heads of these wooden shield warriors, and then erupted with incomparable loud noises and flames. The moment the grenade touched the ground, the percussive fuse in the flash hider ignited the black powder in the grenade within a few tenths of a second. Under the huge impact of the black powder explosion, it quickly cracked into dozens of fragments, and the broken fragments swept in all directions at a speed exceeding the speed of sound. Whether it is a thick wooden shield or a fierce Carry body, it is as fragile as a piece of paper in front of this kind of fragment. Although the explosive energy of black powder cannot be compared with those of violent explosives, it is also an out-and-out killer in this era. The grenadier made by Shi Xiong is to imitate the 8-9 style grenadier of the later generations of Little Devil. The 8-9 style grenadier of the Little Devil fires a 91 style grenade, but it is only loaded with 6.5 grams of ladders. The damage radius of the 91 type grenade reaches 5 to 8 meters. The grenade used by the Expeditionary Army is larger than the 91 type grenade. Although it is filled with black powder, the charge is as high as 200 grams, and it is filled with a handful of iron sand very insidiously by a stone bear. Although black gunpowder is far from being compared with ladders, the grenade used by the Expeditionary Army is also close to 10 meters in radius after being loaded with so much black gunpowder and iron sand. Therefore, when the 80-door grenades that fired at a position of 150 meters were fired at the same time, the 80 grenades immediately covered the position 150 meters in front of the position, which was nearly 500 meters wide and nearly 200 meters wide, an area of 10 meters. And this area is precisely the area where the 2,000 wooden shield warriors of the Cree people and more than 1,000 ordinary warriors work. Accompanied by a huge explosion and heavy gunpowder smoke. www.wuxiaspot.com is a series of frightening screams. This kind of sound is no better than the arrogant scream a few seconds ago. This scream is a kind of sound intertwined with the great pain of the body and the despair facing death. In the area 150 meters in front of the Expeditionary Army's position, there were mutilated limbs everywhere, and the grass that had just started to turn green was suddenly stained black and red. There is hardly anyone who can stand in this area, except for the Cree, who was lucky enough not to be killed by the bombing, but all kinds of stumps and broken arms. Almost all the Cree people were frightened, but the matter was far from over, because the explosion in the area of the wooden shield warrior had just sounded within 2 seconds. It was about 600 meters far behind, and a series of bursts were emitted again. The loud explosion. A series of explosions separated by about 2 or 3 seconds between the two rounds completely emptied the area 150 meters and 600 meters in front of the Expeditionary Force position. If someone can look down in the air, then he will definitely see the Cree, who was originally like a tide, and suddenly 2 blood-red blank areas about 20 meters wide have appeared between the frontmost and the middle position. In this area, there is almost no Cree who can stand. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 337. Terrible. This horrible scene frightened all the Carry people who had just been enthusiastic about killing the Expeditionary Army. The people who talked and laughed together in the morning turned into a mess of invisible meat. The clansmen who just yelled lost their heads in an instant, and the blood spurted from their necks dyed the surrounding grass red. The tribe who ran like a wolf while charging just now disappeared in an instant. The powerful wooden shield warriors who rushed to the forefront just now, protecting the tribesmen behind them like a big mountain. Almost all lay on the ground in an instant, most of them turned into a mass of almost invisible rotten meat, and the rest, those who are still alive, either have no arms or legs, or there is a horrible hole in the body, the kind of hole that can see the internal organs. No one can stand this kind of scene, it's too cruel, too bloody. Even the Cree warriors who charge at the forefront are elite warriors selected from various tribes. They usually slaughter cattle and sheep when hunting, and the scenes are bloody. But compared with the current scene, that kind of scene is inferior to a family. Looking at the clansmen who were doing well just a few seconds ago, they turned into a mass of rotten meat, the blood on their bodies even sprayed onto their faces, and the meat on their bodies even smothered their faces. No one can stand this. Especially these Carrie people who claim to be powerful, but have never received the baptism of this kind of hot weapon rampant battlefield. All of them are stupid, completely stupid. Although the bighorn sheep standing on the top of a small hill in the distance could not see the actual situation clearly, he could still see the two blood-red blank areas at the front and the middle of the team. At this time, the bighorn sheep finally understood where the anxiety just came from. Those are two red blank areas that are close to 500 meters in length and 20 meters in width. Even if the bighorn sheep can't see any stumps and broken arms, he can think of it. There are close to 4,000 people in these two blood-red blank areas. It was all gone in just that moment. At this moment, the bighorn sheep is also completely petrified. While standing on the top of the hill and commanding the stone bear, he saw clearly what happened in the next few seconds, and his face couldn't help showing a terrible expression. To be honest, Shi Xiong himself did not expect that this round of saturation bombing by the grenadier would cause such heavy casualties. This is no longer a war, and it is not a massacre, it is simply inhumane, of rolling. Actually, this is no wonder Shi Xiong. It is because the formation of the Carrie people is too dense, and the grenade that is too suitable for the grenade to play the maximum power. In order to avoid the muskets of the expeditionary army, the Cree used 2,000 wooden shield warriors as shields in front, forming a shield wall with a width of 500 meters. It is still two-story. The Cree people behind only need to follow the footsteps of the wooden shield warriors, just charge forward. This kind of tactic has to be said to be successful. At least it is absolutely successful when facing the musket, thinking that with the power of the musket now, the defense of the wooden shield soldier cannot be broken at all. But again, this led to the formation of a fairly dense battle formation in the Cree force behind the wooden shield warriors, and the grenadier that fires the bombardment is precisely the biggest nemesis of this kind of intensive battle. Its lethality is no different from that of the Maxim heavy machine gun, and its tragic degree is far more than that of the Maxim heavy machine gun. In other words, the reason for all of this is that the Cree's commander-in-chief, Bighorn Sheep, made a wrong guess and made a wrong bet. He did not expect that the Cherokee Expeditionary Army on the opposite side would have so many grenadiers. For Shi Xiong, this scene is what he wants to see and what he doesn't want to see. Although his soul comes from an era more than 200 years later, his body is truly Indian. And after the stone bear came to this era, the greatest ideal was to prevent the slaughter of North American Indians in the original historical time and space from happening again. The ideal of Stone Bear is to create a country belonging to the Indians in this time and space, rather than allowing the Americans to occupy this vast and rich land. In other words, the Stone Bear is its lifelong ideal to protect the North American Indians. But now, in order to realize his ideal, he has to raise a butcher knife against the North American Indians. The slaughter of nearly 4 kilograms of people in just a few seconds, to be honest, made Shi Xiong a little sad. But I have to keep doing this if I am sad. If you want to unify the scattered North American Indians, you can't do it with your mouth. The most important thing is the weapon in your hand. In fact, throughout the history of the world, the establishment of any country is full of blood and fire. If a country has not experienced the baptism of blood and fire, then even if the country is established, it is still fragile. Est country is like the Song dynasty in Chinese history. The establishment of its dynasty did not experience the baptism of blood and fire. Although the Song dynasty was very rich, it ended up being replaced by the northern nomads. And if you want to establish a powerful dynasty dominated by Indians, the blood and fire in the process of establishing the dynasty are inevitable. The current population of North American Indians is about the same as the population of European colonists. www.wuxiaspot.com. Both are more than 2 million. The Americans who gathered in the 13 colonies on the East Coast were able to build a powerful country in the end, so why couldn't the Indians who now occupy the vast majority of North America build a more powerful country? These thoughts flashed through Shi Xiong's mind. Even he himself couldn't figure out why he had such thoughts because of the tragic scene before him. Sitting on Huo Feng's back, Shi Xiong looked at the dumbfounded Carry people below, gritted his teeth, a fierce flash flashed in his eyes, and raised the small flag in his hand again. Kara Klilu was also stunned by the tragic scene ahead. This tragic scene happened less than 200 meters away from him, and the impact on him was far greater than the stone bear standing on the top of the mountain and the distance, bighorn sheep. Jolakrilu knew the power of a bullet toss was great, but he never thought it would have such a lethal power in any way. That was a full 2,000 wooden shield warriors, so they were slaughtered without resistance. If this is replaced by the Crooked Deer tribe, this sudden thought made Kara Klilu shudder for no reason. And then he saw the semaphore from the guardian at the top of the mountain. The meaning of semaphore is very simple: keep the original shooting position and fire one round. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, Collapse. The tragedy caused by bullet throwing not only stunned the Cree, but even the expeditionary gunmen standing in the front row. They are the same as Kara Klilu, although they know that this bulletkin is very powerful. Even the 30 men of the Gaoshu tribe who have participated in the expedition team have seen the power of the unconscionable cannon, but the effect of the simultaneous bombardment of these 80-door grenadiers still completely suppressed them. The effect of the simultaneous bombing of 80 grenadiers is not comparable to that of 5 unscrupulous cannons. Where have they seen such a scene of flesh and blood? But after 5 months of rigorous training, these musketeers were stunned by the scene before them. But they recovered quickly when Kara Klilu's order was heard again. The grenadiers were behind the musketeers. Although they heard the loud noise of the serial explosion, they didn't see the tragedy. So when Jorakuru's order was heard again, they immediately lit the grenadier, the fuse at the bottom of the tube, and then a few seconds later, another round of screaming echoed in the air again. The sudden screaming sound of this round made the dumbfounded Carry people blow up their pot instantly. After hearing this sound with their own ears just now, they saw the tragic scene of the people's death and injury with their own eyes. Their natural way is this sharp. What does the scream mean? That is the scream of death. These Cree people also know that once this scream of death disappears, horrible things will happen next, and their people just died in that horror. Therefore, when this round of screaming sounded again, all the Carry people were in a mess. It's a pity that their reaction speed is still a little slower. The screaming sound in the air lasts for only a few seconds, which is not enough for them to react and take action, and then a new round of explosions begins. However, the area of this explosion is still similar to the area of the previous round, except for hundreds of unlucky ones that were harvested by shattered fragments and iron sand, and hundreds of Cree were wounded. The damage caused by the round explosion was much lower than the first round. But even so, 2 consecutive rounds of explosions have completely collapsed the remaining 15,000 Cree. I don't know who took the lead. The people of Carry, who had been dumbfounded, immediately uttered an earth-shattering shout. No one could hear what they called, but it was certain that the shouts were full of fear. Then this large group of people turned into headless flies. Most of them threw away their weapons and began to turn around and ran backwards. Some people jumped directly into the river, and a small number of people tried to climb the hill where the stone bear is. The people who ran backwards and jumped into the river, Shi Xiong did not pay attention to them, but those Cree who tried to climb the hill were hit by a rain of arrows. Stone Bear didn't want these crumbled Cree people to rush up this hill, so he gave the order to cover it with arrow rain. Seeing that the crumbled Carry people at the foot of the mountain were shot and killed one by one, and the remaining Carry people began to turn around and ran backwards in embarrassment, Shi Xiong knew that this first large-scale battle with the Carry people was completely over. It was different from what I imagined. Originally, Shi Xiong thought he would have to shoot 10 rounds and 8 rounds. At least 1/3 of the Cree would be killed to break the Cree. However, he didn't expect it to be only 2 rounds. The volley of rounds, of which the second round was deliberately vented, completely frightened the Cree to collapse. However, this result is better. After all, they are all Indians and elite soldiers selected from the various tribes of the Cree. If you kill too many, one will have a bad reputation, and the other will not kill yourself, own person. Although the Cree and Cherokee are still in hostile mode, they are all Indians after all. But this situation is estimated to be indispensable in the future. The Iroquois alliance living in the northern Great Lakes region, the Sioux in the northwest, and the Navajo in the Midwest are all powerful tribes. To conquer these powerful tribes, killing is essential. If the least killing can be exchanged for the greatest result, as it is now, Shi Xiong must be willing to do it. Shi Xiong knows very well that this battle is over, and the fate of the Carry people is almost doomed. The 20,000 Cree fighters in front of me almost occupy more than half of the military force of the entire Cree tribe. The Cree tribe occupies a very large territory, and most of the remaining fighters are distributed in remote places. It is not so easy to gather them together. After all, there are no highways and railways in this era. There are even few horses. The traffic basically relies on 2 legs. In this case, if you want to concentrate all the remaining combat power, it is almost one piece, impossible things. It can be said with certainty that the group of Cree people who are fleeing in front of them is all the fighting power that the Cree people can currently use, and they are also the most elite and powerful fighting power of the Cree people. And this group of people are now starting to flee, and they also have an irresistible fear of the Expeditionary Army's firearms, so when they face the Expeditionary Army in the future, this group will become like those Yachi people and flee without a fight. In this way, the Expeditionary Army can take down the Cree without a single soldier. Shi Xiong is now sure to say that the Carry people are completely finished. 170 shotguns fired just 2 rounds and caused such a result. This is really a result that made Shi Xiong overjoyed? Of course, for the bighorn sheep standing on the small hill in the distance, this battle is an out-and-out tragedy. When he ambitiously persuaded the chief of the Cree Kalmuk, when he ambitiously built 2,000 wooden shield warriors, when he ambitiously summoned 20,000 from various tribes, the elite Carry warrior, when he took the 20,000 Carry warriors on the expedition to the Cherokee, even when his team encountered the Expeditionary Army, the bighorn sheep never thought that he would fail. But the reality is so cruel. The huge gap between hot weapons and cold weapons is vividly staged before his eyes. 20,000 soldiers lost 1/5 in just a few tens of seconds, and the opponent did not lose even a single hair. This is something that bighorn sheep cannot accept anyway. The most important thing is that the entire team completely collapsed. Under that horrible weapon, these elite and strong men of Cree have completely collapsed. The bighorn sheep standing on the top of the hills watched his subordinates running wildly from the hills like headless flies. He just wanted to hit and die on the stone. The bighorn sheep even wants to attack the Hipak, demons, alone on a horse, just like Don Quixote rushing to a windmill. Of course, if the bighorn sheep knows who Don Quixote is. P.S. Tomorrow, oh no. It should be the plane early this morning. The hard-pressed Lao Mo has to leave early in the morning, so the 2 chapters will be issued after 12 o'clock. Please ask for a recommendation ticket. Lao Mo is very grateful. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 339, Temper. After the last Cree disappeared in the distant hills, the stone bear rode down the mountain, and at this time there was cheers in the position. Victory is certainly worth cheering and celebrating. Even after the guardian Shi Xiong got off his horse, a group of soldiers directly lifted him up, and then threw him up, caught him, and threw him up again. Shi Xiong was so scared that his heart and liver almost jumped out. His weight is too big. If this group of guys can't handle it, it will be miserable. After a long time of tossing, Joe Lacrilu smiled and asked, "Guardian, what should we do next? Should I fix it on the spot or continue to pursue it?" Shi Xiong looked around, and the faces of the men around were smiles and unstoppable fighting enthusiasm. Obviously, the previous battle was not just as simple as winning. This battle is even bigger. The significance lies in allowing these soldiers to truly see the cruelty of the hot weapon battlefield, and at the same time let them experience the joy of victory. As for whether these fighters have a deeper experience, it depends on them. Anyway, this victory will bring a series of gains to this team, which will greatly promote the growth of these fighters. Shi Xiong exclaimed, "Brothers, my people, we have won a brilliant victory in this war. We used a mere 2,100 people to completely defeat the Cree, who had 20,000 fighters. So, this it is definitely a victory worth cheering and celebrating, and you also have the right to cheer and celebrate." Before Shi Xiong's words fell, the surrounding soldiers rang out again and cheers. Soon, the cheers turned into a uniform "Guardian, Guardian, Guardian." That was loud. Really, it is about to break through the sky. Kiao Lacrilu nodded with a smile. He knew very well that if the Guardian had only established a commanding position among this group of fighters during the previous training, he had made the group of fighters bow their heads by virtue of his identity, his own strength and orders. The prestige of these fighters has not been very high, so today is just an incredible victory, and the prestige of the Guardian among these fighters immediately reached its peak. As the leader of the Outer Ears tribe, Joe Lacrilu really knows how important it is to be recognized by his subordinates and people. In such a prohibited army, it is even more important for the commander to receive all-round support from his subordinates. Judging from the current situation, these guys have obviously regarded the Guardian as a godlike existence. Even if the Guardian asked them to die, this group of guys would probably not hesitate to execute this order. This is a good thing, a great thing, because only in this way can the 2,100 expeditionary forces be twisted into a rope and become a powerful team that is invincible. This is what Lacrilu wanted to see, and now, it's achieved. As the center of this vortex, Shi Xiong could even feel the changes of the guys under him, and a smile appeared on his face. But then Shi Xiong raised his hands high, and the cry of the sky-shaking Guardian stopped immediately. "Brothers, what we need to do next is to clean up the battlefield. See, those Cree people who were killed by our grenades need to be buried. The weather is getting hot now. If you let these corpses be exposed here, maybe it will cause a huge plague." After a pause, Shi Xiong looked at these subordinates with puzzled expressions on their faces, and then continued, "Of course, there is a more important reason for doing this, that is, even though they are Cree, they are now making our enemies, but they are also Indians. Fundamentally speaking, the Cree and our Cherokee are actually one family. Our real enemy is the Vasiku. And don't forget, our expedition is going to come to conquer the Cree. Once we completely conquer the Cree, then we will become a real family. Are you willing to see the corpses of your own tribe?" The first strong man in the original Crooked Deer tribe, Mad Cow, said in a loud voice, "Master Guardian is right. Although I don't understand what it means, I support Master Guardian's order." Second guerrilla team, "Brothers, come with me. Let's bury the bodies of those Cree people." Mad Bull's words immediately caused the team to move. Although Mad Bull did not mix with musketeers or grenadiers, he was just a squad leader among the guerrillas. This is not a star or a bit different from Cuckoo, the second-ranked warrior in the Crooked Deer tribe, but no one dared look down on this tall and powerful man. This brawny man, who is second only to Lord Guardian, is very popular in the expeditionary army. Of course, sometimes some soldiers joked with him, asking him why Lord Guardian wouldn't let him be a captain. He would only laugh and say, This is the temper of Master Guardian to me. Shi Xiong is indeed tempering him, and Shi Xiong is also very optimistic about this strong man. Through many contacts, Shi Xiong can clearly feel that this strong man actually has a very delicate thinking and a big heart that is comparable to his size. Such a person, as long as they are well cultivated, www.wuxiaspa.com, they will definitely be an outstanding talent in the future. So Shi Xiong is really tempering him. Seeing what Mad Bull was doing now, Shi Xiong also laughed, but he stopped the action of his subordinates, and then said to Mad Bull, "Mad Bull, you think at this time, in this kind of place, you just walked out of the battlefield. Is it right to clear the battlefield?" Hearing Shi Xiong's words, Mad Cow was immediately stunned, and then he said with some shame, "My Lord Guardian, I am rash. In this case, our scouts should be scattered first and spread around the battlefield. The situation in the area is clarified, and it is confirmed that there are no enemies before our large forces can get out of the position. Of course, before we get out of the position, we should send scouts to contact the rear logistics units, because clearing the battlefield requires the support of the logistics units." "Well, what you said is very good. Then I order you, and you will give such orders." Crazy Bull showed a happy smile on his face. He straightened his body immediately, merged his feet, and then closed the 5 fingers of his right hand and pointed his fingertips at his right temple. A standard military salute came. "Yes, sir. Since we want to build this expeditionary army into a qualified army, and use this expeditionary army as the seed to form a larger qualified army, everything must be trained by future military standards, including the salute to the army according to the standards of later generations is also one of Shi Xiong's changes to this expeditionary army." https://Genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 340. Be merciful. Under the envious eyes of everyone, Mad Cow issued corresponding orders to scout soldiers, musketeers, grenadiers, and guerrillas in accordance with the standard way of issuing orders. Stone Bear and Joe Lakrilu watched from the sidelines. The Mad Cow gave the order very thoughtfully and took all the considerations into consideration. This made Joey Lakrilu and Rock Bear very satisfied. Joe Lakrilu would not eat the vinegar of Crazy Cow. Crazy Cow was originally his most powerful warrior, Cuckoo. Now Master Guardian is obviously training this big man, and Joe Lakrilu is only happy. Joe Lakrilu can become the leader of the Outer Ear tribe. One is directly related to his bloodline. Of course, his own ability is also a very important reason. Especially during the 5 months of training, he remembered a lot of the things that Master Guardian told him, especially the one sentence Joe Lakrilu remembered the most. In the ancient and mysterious East, there is a very well documented saying called "The laborer governs, the laborer treats others." What does this mean? It is very simple. Mental laborers dominate people, and manual laborers are ruled by people. People rule. Joe Lakrilu, as a good tribal leader, you should position yourself as a laborer, not a laborer. To tell you the truth, my goal is far more than conquering Cree. I will lead our people to conquer the Iroquois and Delawares in the north, the Pointons in the east, and of course the Chickasaws and Missourians in the west, and the more distant ones, the Sioux and Navajo are the targets I want to conquer. My ultimate goal is to unify this beautiful and fertile continent, and drive out the Vasakuk completely out of this continent. And to do this, I can't do it on my own. I need a lot of people to help me. And you, Chief Kara Klilu, I hope you can be the one who helps me, and I also hope you can become a leader than the true leader of the Crooked Deer tribe in a region 100 times larger and 1,000 times larger. Joe Lakrilu was completely stunned by the remarks made by the Guardian. Of course, he also remembered the phrase "the one who works hard, and the one who works for others." Since then, Joe Lakrilu has been learning how to be a real worker. Crazy Bull's orders were strictly enforced. The scouts took their own weapons and boarded the horses, in pairs, galloping in all directions of this land. They wanted to find out in the shortest possible time for the expeditionary force. The position is the situation within 20 miles of the center. There is also a group of scouts riding towards the back of the position, They want to notify the rear logistics soldiers to quickly arrive at the Expeditionary Army position. Before the news of the scouts came, the musketeers and grenadiers took turns to clear the battlefield between 150 meters and 200 meters from the front of the position. In fact, clearing the battlefield is also a kind of training and tempering for the expeditionary soldiers by Shi Xiong. Almost everyone in the Expeditionary Army has lives in their hands, especially those from the outer ear tribe. They have no idea how many Chikashas have been killed during the years they have fought with the Chikashas. But no matter how many people they have killed before, they must have never seen this kind of scene where the ground is full of limbs and broken arms. Compared with the huge damage caused by the bombing, the kind of battle they had before was simply playing house. Let the soldiers of the Expeditionary Army fully experience the lethality caused by thermal weapons, and let them experience the cruelty of the thermal weapons battlefield, which greatly promotes their growth. Sure enough, none of the expeditionary soldiers who took turns to clean up that area did not vomit when cleaning up the battlefield. This tragic scene is even more cruel than the scene where Stone Bear used the fireball array to deal with the French and Chikasha coalition forces at Gaoshu Pass. Most of these expeditionary soldiers have never seen such a tragic scene. Vomiting. I have to endure it, and I have to keep clearing the battlefield. Only after passing this hurdle, they will become a real warrior. Because they have only seen blood before they have experienced this kind of battlefield of corpse mountains and seas of blood. The scattered scouts quickly brought back information from nearby areas. The Korea's large army really flees, desperately fleeing. In the words of the Bobcats, the Korea's minds have been completely destroyed in this battle. Since there were no enemies around the battlefield, the expeditionary force immediately expanded the scope of clearance. But in these 2 rounds of volleys, too many Kari people were killed. Even if the logistics soldiers arrived to clear the battlefield together, these soldiers who vomited and resisted to clean up the battlefield still used enough. It took 2 days to bury all the dead bodies. Of course, when clearing the battlefield, many Kari people who were seriously injured and dying were also found. Under this circumstance, Stone Bear did not issue any orders, but asked Kara Krilu how to deal with the seriously injured Kri. At the beginning, Jora Krilu, who was vomiting pale, was a little unbearable, but after gritting his teeth and thinking for a while, he decisively gave the order to kill the seriously wounded. The expeditionary soldiers who were also vomiting also immediately executed this order. There were more than 3,600 Koreans who were directly killed by bullets, and less than 400 Koreans were seriously injured. These less than 400 severely wounded were all given a joy by the expeditionary soldiers who carried out the order with steel knives. I am very satisfied with Joe Laklilu's order. www.wuxiaspa.com. These severely wounded people are no longer saved. If the expeditionary army wants to rescue these severely wounded, one is doing useless work, and the other will slow down the expeditionary army's progress and increase the difficulty of logistics supplies for the expeditionary army. So, the best way is to give these seriously wounded a happy life. This era is not a battlefield for later generations. In this sad era, the severely wounded on the battlefield can only be treated like this. Although it is very inhumane to do so, but as the saying goes, if you want to be a good commander, cruelty is one of the basic qualities that you must have. The battlefield is where you live and die. There is nothing questionable about this. A qualified commander must ensure that his own strategic intent is realized. To this end, the commander can do anything. And if because of pity for these severely wounded, one's own strategic intentions cannot be implemented, then this commander is not a qualified commander. Obviously, Joe Laklilu, who has been submerged by the Stone Bear for so long, has personally participated in this battle, is slowly transforming into a qualified commander. Stone Bear doesn't know whether Jorikaru will eventually become an excellent commander, but he knows that the leader of the Crooked Deer's tribe is now firmly advancing in this direction. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 341, One bunch of harpak. This clearing of the battlefield is a great baptism for all expeditionary soldiers. Although due to weapons, what should have been a fierce battle turned into an overwhelming massacre, the training of expeditionary soldiers is not so sufficient, but clearing the battlefield can also enable these expeditionary forces. The soldiers received cruel training from another aspect. Apart from anything else, the increasingly strong murderous aura from the soldiers of the expeditionary army can prove that these soldiers are transforming towards an excellent soldier. After all the Cree corpses on the battlefield were buried, only a dark red was left in a huge area, and this dark red just silently told the tragic scene that happened here 2 days ago. In the past 2 days, in the vicinity of this huge area, one can hear one after another howling of wolves at any time. These top predators with keen sense of smell were attracted by the smell here early. But these wild wolves can only watch from a distance, because even these wild wolves can feel the murderous aura faintly revealed by those who are active in this area. Even with the fierceness of wild wolves, they can only stand still in front of the murderous aura revealed by these people. Something deep in the genes is always reminding these fierce and sensitive predators that the two-legged monsters in the distance can't be provoked, absolutely can't be provoked. The expeditionary army set off again. Although they achieved a swift victory, they were still a long way from hitting the home of the Cree, where the royal court of the Cree was located. But the next trip will be much easier. After crossing the Great Smoky Mountains, although the remaining distance is very long, it is mostly hills and plains, and the marching speed will be greatly increased. Because the logistics army has more than 200 bullock carts, these bullock carts can not only pull ammunition, medicine and food supplies, but also allow 5 additional soldiers to ride. In other words, these more than 200 bullock carts can be used at one time. Carry 1,000 expeditionary soldiers. When 1,000 expeditionary soldiers got on the bullock cart to rest, another 1,000 expeditionary soldiers without horses walked. After walking for 2 hours, these fighters can rest in the bullock cart. Rotating in this way can adequately maintain the strength of the soldiers. Although it is a bit unfair to the cows and cows, at this time there are abundant weeds everywhere. As long as these cows have something to eat, people will ignore this. The speed of the ox cart is about the same as the walking speed of the soldiers, so this way of advancement can almost guarantee the team to advance 60 miles a day. This speed is much faster than the speed of advancing in the valley of the Great Smoky Mountains. Along the way, the expeditionary army also encountered many Yuchi and Carrie tribes. These tribes obviously already knew about the defeat of the Carrie, and even these tribes had many routes of Carrie or Yuchi warriors. Therefore, when the expeditionary army appeared outside these tribes, sometimes even without firing a shot, the entire tribe surrendered collectively. Even if it is a little tougher, you only need to fire 2 shots at the periphery of the tribe with a tossing canister, and these tribes will immediately be frightened to surrender. Of course, after conquering a tribe, Stone Bear will arrange for expeditionary soldiers to use bullet grenades and earthen grenade in front of everyone in the tribe. A grenade and a grenade fired from a grenadier can scare the tribesmen into a tremor. Then, the Stone Bear will order all the expeditionary soldiers to show the grenades and earthen grenade. The effect of this kind of deterrence is more effective than anything else. When the people of the Cree tribe saw that this small number of Cherokees had so many scary weapons, no one dared to resist. These Cree people are not stupid, they have to resist in front of such a terrifying weapon. They are not heroes, they are idiots seeking death. In this way, almost every day, the expeditionary army can conquer 1 or 2 Cree tribes without blood, and sometimes it can conquer 3 in a day. Compared with the Cherokee in the depths of the Appalachian Mountains, the Cree in the southeastern region of the New World has a much greater tribal density than the Cherokee. After all, the terrain here is much gentler than that of the Appalachian Mountains, so there are many Cree tribes in this gentle and fertile land. But most of these tribes are quite small, usually about 100 people, and tribes with more than 500 people are rare. Along the way, The expeditionary army received almost no resistance. One reason was that the expeditionary army was much larger than these small tribes. Another reason is probably that the news of the defeat of the Cree army had spread throughout this area. The 20,000 Cree army was defeated by the Cherokee. How strong are the Cherokees? The soldiers in the 20,000 Cree army are all elite fighters selected from various tribes, but with so many elite fighters, there is not even time for a stick of incense in front of the Cherokees. Resist, threw down 4,000 corpses and fled. The power of rumors is very powerful in some special circumstances, especially when the Cree army is defeated and fled. Such rumors are even more powerful. Now in many Cree tribes, the Cherokee expeditionary soldiers have been described as 1 foot tall, 9 foot waist, powerful existence that can use the magic of the gods. Especially there is a rumor that has the most market www.wuxiaspot.com that is when these Cherokee people appear, it is best not to resist, otherwise these Hipak, devil, will eat all the tribes who resisted alive. In this era, the ignorant and backward North American Indians dare not resist Hipak, because although Harpak is terrible, Harpak is also a member of the gods. As long as it is a god, you can't offend it. Not to mention that the Cherokee Expeditionary Force has more than 2,000 Habakas. There are so many Harpaks gathered together, that is not something human can resist. Only by obediently bowing their heads and obedient can they ensure that the tribesmen will not be eaten by these terrifying Harpaks. Under such rumors that became more and more divergent, most of the tribes of the Cree tribe knew that the Cherokee in the north had sent a group of terrifying Harpak, and the expeditionary force fired grenades and earthen grenade for deterrence. It proves their horror. Therefore, in the northern part of the Cree royal court, near the advance route of the expeditionary force, almost none of the Cree tribes dared to resist. The expeditionary army wore a big hat of Harpak, and conquered a large area north of the royal court of the Cree tribe with a kind of wind-swept power. And when the weather is getting hotter and hotter, after 3 months of arduous trek, the king's tent of the Cree finally appeared in front of the expeditionary army. https://Genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 342, Soldiers approaching the city. The territory controlled by the Cree is quite large, and the later states of Georgia, southern Alabama, and southern South Carolina all belong to the territory of the Cree. And if you count the Yuchi separated from the Cree and the territory controlled by the Semino, in fact, the entire southeast of the New World is a territory controlled by the Cree. This area includes the later states of Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina and Florida. The King's Court of the Cree was located in the southwestern part of Georgia, approximately close to Albany, Georgia. After defeating the Cree army, the expeditionary army has been trekking for more than a month and completely conquered all the Cree tribes along the way, and finally came to this flat area near the Flint River. In the original historical time and space, the Cree were the North American Indian tribes that accepted Western civilization earlier, and they were also one of the first tribes of North American Indians to initiate changes. But in 1811, a comet appeared. Some conservatives of the Cree thought this was an ominous sign caused by Western civilization. Therefore, under the instigation of these conservatives, some Cree people launched an uprising against the United States, known as the Carey Civil War in history. Coincidentally, the British began to invade the United States in 1812, so the two Crees joined the American and British camps to attack each other until the Battle of the Horseshoe Bend of the Tennessee River in 1814. The Civil War ended. This civil war caused heavy losses to the originally powerful Carey people and lost a large amount of territory. Eventually they became a weak tribe that lingered, and was finally forced to move to Oklahoma and Texas in 1830. And this flat area that originally belonged to the King's Court of Cree developed into Albany, the 8th largest city in Georgia. But at this time, in the spring of 1766, before the Cherokee Expeditionary Army appeared, the Cree was still the undoubted overlord of the southeast of the New World. P.S. To explain a little bit, the Cree people in this book are actually the Cree people, but everyone also knows that for some indescribable reasons, Some names cannot be written, so let's use the Cree people instead. Although this name is the same as the Cree, the most powerful tribe of North American Indians living in eastern Canada, central Canada, the 5 northern regions, and the Montana area, everyone just needs to distinguish it. Cree-controlled tribes. In addition to the Yuchi and the Seminoles in Florida, there are also some relatively small tribes around them, whose influence even the Spaniards and the British dare not look down upon. If we follow the original historical time and space, the Carrie people will be strong for at least 50 or 60 years. But it is a pity that when the Soul Wearer appeared, the Stone Bear just waved his arm gently, and killed the French and Chickasha coalition forces, and then disguised himself as a Frenchman. Not a big deal. No small storm was brewing. The French must be unwilling to be trapped, so the French issued a reward order for the Gaoshu tribe and the Stone Bear. If it were not for the Yukai people who attacked the Zio tribe because of their greed and killed Shi Xiong, the Soul Wearer's most beloved woman, Shi Xiong would not have launched an attack on the Yukai people in rage. And if it weren't for Stone Bear's expedition team to show strong offensive power in their revenge against Yuchiren, and it would not arouse the fear of the Carrie people, there would be no Bighorn sheep going to the Cherokee court to demand the killing of Yuchiren, a matter handed over by the murderer of the 2 chiefs. But who gave the Soul Wearer Shi Xiong the protagonist's aura? In addition, Shi Xiong himself is a person who can't rub the sand in his eyes. You dare to take the life of Lao Tzu by relying on your strength. It will be strange if Lao Tzu can make you feel better. So after Stone Bear successfully challenged the divine decree exemption in the Cherokee court, he decided to start with the powerful Cree. Aren't you strong? Are you arrogant? Let you taste the horror of thermal weapons first. It is estimated that if the Bighorn sheep knew the cause and effect of this series of things, he would regret it and not want it. Knowing that the terrifying big man is such an awesome character, the ghost would go to the Cherokee palace to ask for someone. How good is it to stay at home honestly? Why have to tease that fierce guy like a fool? It's a pity that the Bighorn sheep, who can be considered a very shrewd tribe leader, doesn't know this anymore. The army of 20,000 elite soldiers was so unreasonably defeated. The most important thing was the death of 4 kilograms of soldiers. This responsibility could not fall on others in any case. It could only be the commander of the Bighorn sheep. So, when the Bighorn sheep and the fleeing Cree warriors fled back to the Cree royal court, he was imprisoned. If the Harpak does not attack the royal court, or the tens of thousands of army concentrated near the royal court can defeat the Harpak, then the Bighorn sheep will be executed one day to pay tribute to the 4 kilograms that died in that battle. Lee Nationality warrior. It's just that there are rumors about Harpak that have already spread to the seat of the Cree's royal family, and everyone is in panic. What are these Cherokee people who are not Harpak? An army of 20,000 elite fighters was enough to wipe out a medium-sized tribe, but it was defeated in front of a mere 2,000 people, and 4,000 people died all at once. Only the horrible and evil Harpak can do such a thing. www.wuxiaspa.com. Everyone is looking forward to this group of Harpak not to come to the royal court, but unfortunately, this group of Harpak still come here. Now not only the ordinary Cree people living in the seat of the Cree royal court are feeling fear in their hearts, even the elite fighters who came to support are also anxious. Even the chief of the Cree tribe, Karmuk, face. Although he didn't show his sensuality, he felt as if he was playing a drum in his heart. Who made the weapons comparable to the wrath of the gods used by these Cherokees so terrifying? The soldiers who fled were not only scared, they also spread the horror of those weapons to all corners of the Cree tribe. Now, even those tribal warriors who have not fought against this group of Harpak are huge psychological shadow. However, even as the chief of the Cree tribe, Karmarku is helpless in this situation. He can only give a lot of benefit to the fighters who are urgently assembled from the south of the tribe, hoping to let these fighters defeat those who are near the city. Cherokee. In this regard, Chief Kolmarko also has hope in his heart. After all, the number of soldiers summoned in an emergency has exceeded 10,000. There are also some experience of fighting with the Spaniards' musketeers. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 343, in sight. As the two sides confronted each other, a hoarse voice was roaring in a small tent next to the large tent of the Cree royal court. "Damn it, let me meet Chief Cole Marco. I have to meet Cole, Chief Marco." There is a wooden cage in the small tent. A thin and haggard man is holding the wooden cage and roaring loudly. The two Cree fighters standing next to the wooden cage just glanced at the haggard man indifferently, looked at each other again, and moved the realization directly elsewhere. "Two brothers, I heard the horns assembled outside. Did the Cherokee kill here? If this is the case, please call Chief Cole Marco over. I have important things I want to report to the chief. Please also, shut up, you fellow. It is because of you that our tribe has fallen into this state." A guardman turned his head and yelled sharply. Another guardman also said angrily, "Bighorn Sheep, do you think you are still the Bighorn Sheep who has been with the chief? Have you forgotten what kind of mistakes you made? 4,000. The lives of the tribesmen have disappeared forever because of your command. Even the men of your tribe have all died under your wrong command. Bighorn Sheep, what qualifications do you have to meet the great Chief Colomark? What qualifications do you have to say these things now? So, you should shut up." The sharp accusation of the guardman made the man in the wooden cage ashamed to cover his head. His hands and 10 fingers just grabbed his messy hair, and the pain was extremely painful. This man was a Bighorn Sheep. However, when the horn outside sounded again, the Bighorn Sheep suddenly raised its head, and said urgently to the two men outside the wooden cage, "Two brothers, I don't want to see the chief now. But I can't say to the chief, just say that when fighting the Cherokee, we must not let our soldiers line up and charge. We must spread our soldiers as much as possible, so that Cherokee the power of the horror weapons of the G people will be reduced to the lowest. Two brothers, I beg you, the Bighorn Sheep, please take my words to the chieftain now. This is related to the lives of the warriors of our tribe today." If Shi Xiong heard these words, he would be shocked, because Bighorn Sheep's words just said the most effective way to deal with bullet throwing. The stone bear will definitely admire the Bighorn Sheep. This Bighorn Sheep figured out a way to deal with bullet throwing after just a battle. It's a pity that the two guys guarding the Bighorn Sheep didn't even listen to what the Bighorn Sheep said. The poisonous tongue guy just sneered and said, "Bighorn Sheep, you're here to wait for your head to be beheaded. Last time it was because of that, your command, the tribe has killed so many elite fighters, and now you still want to use your stinky head to make stinky ideas? Don't you dislike the fact that there were few clansmen who died last time?" Another guardman simply took out his bone stick and slammed it up against the Bighorn Sheep's face. With just one click, the Bighorn Sheep let out a miserable cry and fell to the ground. His mouth and nose began to fall, bleeding blood out. "Damn, guy, I still want to confuse the chief at this time. If it weren't for the chief who said he would kill this guy after victory and sacrifice to the heavens and sacrifice those dead brothers, I want to kill this guy now." He took out a bone stick and said bitterly. The other poisonous tongue patted him on the shoulder and spit at the Bighorn Sheep lying on the ground. The poisonous tongue man knew that the brother of the man next to him died in the battle commanded by the Bighorn Sheep, and he couldn't even find his body. No one paid attention to what happened in this small tent, and no one paid attention to it. Now all the Cree's minds are placed on the Cherokee who is a few miles away on the opposite side. Seeing those terrifying Harpack line up in the distance, Chief Colomark's pupils began to shrink. These Cherokee people are really so powerful? The last time we fought, there were 20,000 fighters on our side. How could it be possible to be defeated and flee in front of this mere 2,000 people? Did these people really suffer Harpack's favor? Chief Colomark's eyes flashed a hesitant and worried look, and then disappeared. He took a deep breath, turned his head to look at the strong men behind him, and sighed slightly in his heart. The fighters behind them are almost all the fighting power that the entire Cree can gather at present. Those fighters who had fled from the battlefield were shocked. Perhaps after a period of calm, they could become a group of qualified fighters again, but now, they absolutely cannot appear on the battlefield near the royal court. Once the scared fighters show up here, they will easily rout again. In that case, things can't be undone. So, Now I can only count on these soldiers urgently summoned from the south to defeat the Cherokee. My people, my brothers, now, the Cherokees who killed our 4,000 brothers are standing in front of us. Yes, they have a kind of scary weapon, maybe they really are be possessed by the evil Harpak, but don't forget, this is the royal court of our Cree. www.wuxiaspa.com. This is the place where our Cree totem pole is. Here, we are great. The of the sun and the of the sky will always look after us, and the Cherokees on the opposite side won't take any advantage here. Think about it, if those Cherokees really break here, then our entire Cree tribe will be completely ruined, and your wives and children, your parents will also die in these Cherokees, in human hands. So, my brothers, my people, use your greatest courage and use your greatest strength to protect your wives, children and parents, and protect our sacred totem pole. My brothers, my people, I will always stand here with you to fight the Cherokee. I will stand here without taking a step back. Brothers, take your weapons and kill those damned Cherokees. Cherokee, I have to say that although Chief Cole Marco has become a greasy fat man, no longer the bravery of his youth, but there is no doubt that his eloquence is really quite good. Under his instigation, those Cree men screamed like crazy. A tall, sturdy man leading the front of these warriors suddenly lifted the thick and somewhat terrifying stone stick in his hand and shouted, "Brothers, come with me. The time has come to protect our tribe. Let's smash the heads of those Cherokee people with the weapons in our hands." https:// only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 344, Boensai. The last group of elite fighters of the Cree tribe once again used their blood and flesh to prove a cruel fact, that is, there really is an almost insurmountable sky between cold weapons and hot weapons. If the Expeditionary Army only possesses extremely backward hot weapons like muskets, then the Cree may be able to rely on the advantage of numbers to forcibly fill in the sky between the hot and cold weapons. But when the Expeditionary Army had a grenadier, a thermal weapon that was extremely lethal even in the Second World War 200 years later, the sky was not able to be filled with a number of people. Chief Carmack and the ordinary people in the rear witnessed how a massacre and rout occurred. Chief Carmack finally understood why his most powerful men and best friends had happened more than a month ago. Will fail. More than 10,000 Cree men with the determination to break the cauldron and sink the boat overwhelmingly attacked the Expeditionary Army's position. At the beginning, the momentum even Chief Carmack could not mount a horse and follow the men of the tribe to charge together, go kill those Cherokee people. In his opinion, so many people charge with such an aura, it would be strange if the 2,000 Cherokee people on the opposite side could withstand it. If Chief Cole Marco knew that there used to be a term steel torrent on the European battlefield during World War II, then he would not hesitate to apply this term to these guys who are now charging. The only remaining fighting power of the 10,000 Cree tribe is with such an aura, like a flood that explodes, and is rushing toward the expeditionary forces' position. These warriors are better than the warriors organized by the Cree before. They are very powerful, even if the roar from the opposite side made Kara Kleelu speak loudly to the stone bear. He could ride a horse. The stone bear standing in the forefront of the expeditionary force and Jorakrilu were still joking and laughing. Shi Xiong sighed and said loudly, "In fact, if it is not necessary to conquer this tribe, I would rather not kill these Cree people. These are all excellent warriors. It is really a pity to die here like this." Who said no? "But Master Guardian, our brother has been busy for so long. Chief Janaruska is also waiting behind us for the news of our complete conquest of the Cree. Our brothers also need it. The final victory comes to their due glory. So, Master Guardian, order an attack." Shi Xiong looked at the Carrie people who had charged into the 500 meters in front of him. His eyes flashed with unbearable eyes, hesitated for a moment, and finally took a deep breath. His eyes became firm again. As the saying goes, a general accomplishes 10,000 bones and the crown of victory is made of the enemy's blood and flesh. Shi Xiong understands the truth of these words, and he also knows that this is not the time when his pity is attacked. He raised his right hand, visually inspected the position and distance of the Cree, and then suddenly shouted, The musketeers keep firing and shoot freely. The guerrillas should pay attention to protect the formation. The area in front of the grenadiers is 500 meters away from each other. 6 meters, 3 volleys. Accompanied by Shi Xiong's command and his heavy right hand waved down. Just a few seconds later, a series of dull and low-pitched explosions sounded behind the Expeditionary Army's position. It was the black powder used as a propellant in the bullet-throwing cannon, the sound of the bottom of the tube being detonated. At the next moment, 170 black spots rose into the sky, and the screams broke through the sky and fell toward the area 500 meters ahead at a speed close to the speed of sound. This time the Kree didn't have wooden shield fighters, so when they charged, their formation was relatively open, and the frontal charge was close to 1 kilometer in width. But this still couldn't resist the terrifying power of the bullet toss. A grenade filled with 200 grams of black powder and a handful of iron sand has a killing radius of more than 6 meters. Although the horizontal distance between 170 grenades is only 6 meters, it is enough to charge the Kree into a formation. The width is completely covered. The screaming sound of the grenade in the sky did not stop the Kerry people from charging. Although these guys were looking up while running, they still couldn't stop the coming of death. The grenade in the first round flew in the air with the scream of death for more than 2 seconds, and then plunged into the middle of the Kree team. Chief Cormac, who was watching the battle far away in the king's tent, felt an inexplicable heartache in his heart, and then he saw a row of brilliant fireworks exploding in the middle of his team. Of course, Chief Colmarco didn't know what fireworks were, but he knew that the brilliant light with loud noises in front of him was undoubtedly a cruel color of death. These Kree warriors, who were urgently summoned by the Kree royal court, had not personally touched the grenadier before. They only knew from various rumors that the Cherokee had a terrifying weapon. They didn't know how terrifying it was before. Now, they finally realized the horror that their compatriots had experienced before. After the impact fuse of the grenade detonated the black powder in the warhead, the power of 200 grams of black powder in the confined warhead was unparalleled in this era. The loud noise made all the Kree people within a radius of more than 10 meters near the explosion point instantly deaf, and the fragments of the grenade and the insidious installation of the iron sand in the warhead. www.wuxiasput.com will be at supersonic speeds. Sweep everything outward. Almost at the moment of the explosion, all the Kree fighters within a radius of 7 or 8 meters from the explosion point fell to the ground. More than 2/3 of them lost their lives in an instant. Almost all of them were seriously injured. This was only the result of a grenade, and the Expeditionary Force fired a full 170 grenade in the first round of the salvo, covering all the width of the Kree formation. Therefore, when these 170 grenade exploded at the same time, it immediately created a blood-colored blank area in the Kree's charge formation that was more than 1 kilometer in length and close to 20 meters in width. All soldiers of the Expeditionary Army have seen this scene, but the problem is that neither Chief Colmarco nor those Kerry soldiers have seen it. So, almost exactly the same situation as the previous battle happened. The Expeditionary Army even had time to fire the second round of grenades. These Kree fighters who had just sworn to protect the royal court just collapsed. And Chief Colmarco finally realized what happened to his best friend Bighorn. "My friend, I misunderstood you. How could such a Cherokee be able to defeat?" Chief Colmarco bowed his head and sighed. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, Loser. When the warriors who guarded the great tent of the Kree clan collapsed, the next thing was a matter of course. And with a little pride and self-esteem in his chest, Chief Colmarco, who has been standing in front of the great tent of the royal court, finally saw the real harpack in the mouth of the bighorn sheep. The astonishing size of the stone bear changed Chief Cormac's face again. Perhaps he is the real Harpak possession, otherwise, how could this big man have such a size and can make so many terrifying weapons? This is Chief Carmack's mind after seeing the stone bear. The first thought that came up, especially when his gaze fell on Shi Xiong's chest, there was an irrepressible look of fear in his eyes. Because of the hot weather and the complete victory, Shi Xiong simply opened his arms. The tattoo of the explosive bear he had tattooed on the long-hair cow tribe was naturally revealed. Tattooing is a custom that has been passed down for a long time among North American Indians. Almost any North American Indian man has tattoos on his body. North American Indians regard tattoos as a valuable asset. When Silly Head participated in the hunting battle of the tribal clan for the first time when he was 12 years old, he was defeated by the tribe because he competed with a half-large black bear with his bare hands and successfully beat the half-large black bear. The leader Jiao Naiu kindly gave a very domineering name Dali Zhong. After that, the Silly Head completely changed from a child to a true tribal warrior. At that time, the leader of the long-hair cattle tribe, Jiao Naiu, asked him if he wanted a domineering tattoo. At that time, the Silly Head said he wanted to get a tattoo on his chest, a bear. So Jiao Naiu asked the tribe with the best tattoo skills to tattoo a domineering bear on the chest of the Silly Head. As the body of the Silly Head grows and opens up, the explosive bear pattern tattooed on his chest becomes more and more domineering. And now, the body that the stone bear occupies is already scary enough, coupled with this blasting bear tattoo that almost occupies the front of the upper body, it makes him look more like a blasting bear in anger. Sure enough, even Carmack, as a chief of a large tribe, was frightened by the stone bear. "You are Chief Carmack?" Shi Xiong asked unceremoniously, looking down at the fat guy. Carmack's height is almost 1.8 meters tall, but he is still a short head short in front of the stone bear, plus the murderous character of the stone bear and the head of the bear tattoo that is coming on the face. Just after a question, Carmack felt that his calf was beginning to tremble. However, the pride of being a chief still caused Carmack to struggle hard in his heart. He took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I am the Chief Carmack of the Cree tribe, and you are the one who was called the Card, the great bear of the guardian of the high priest of Lu." Ishikama took a playful look at this fat middle-aged fat man. It is really rare for such a fat man to appear among North American Indians in this era, but this is also enough to prove the strength and abundance of the Cree people. After all, this large area occupied by the Cree people is the richest southeast region in the entire North American continent. "I am the guardian of the high priest Kabru, and I am also a strong bear, Honorable Chief Carmack. I am glad to know you on this occasion." Shi Xiong put away his smile and said seriously, "In any case, the fat man in front of him is also the chief of a big tribe, and the respect he deserves must be maintained." The change in Stone Bear's attitude made Carmack's heart somewhat settled. He looked at the expeditionary soldiers around him who were driving away the royal family members, frowning. "Strong Bear, should we talk about you? What should you get after victory? Is it land or population, or something else?" Carmack's words almost amused the Stone Bear, but Stone Bear immediately realized that it was not Chief Carmack joking, but between the North American Indian tribes of this era, when a war came to an end. This is how the winning and losing sides negotiate. Except for the endless vengeance, there are very few cases of extermination among the North American Indian tribes. There is a war between the two tribes, as long as the losing party obediently surrenders land, population or other wealth to the winner. As long as the needs of the winner are met, then the winner will allow the loser to take his tribe and the remaining wealth left. After the Cherokee moved south to Monongahela, they fought several fights with the Pointons who originally occupied the area. As a result, the Pointons were no opponents, and in the end they had to obediently give up a huge piece area, and then moved east with the tribe. Then, the Cherokee began to attack the Chickasaw and Yuchi who were entrenched south of Monongahela. In the end, they did not kill them, but only drove these two tribes away. Obviously, the chief of Carmack still wants to negotiate with the traditional customs of the war between Indian tribes. How does Chief Carmack know Shi Xiong's mind? How could he know the purpose of Stone Bear's expedition? Ishikama smiled non-committal. and this smile made Chief Caller Mac's heart nervous again inexplicably. Just when Shi Xiong wanted to say something, Joe Laklulu and a few warriors walked over, and among those warriors, stood a haggard and a little slender man. Guardian, this guy was found in a small tent next to the king's tent, and this guy is still locked in a cage. It seems that he has committed a felony and is about to be executed. www.wuxiasput.com. Well, by the way, I asked the two guards who guarded this guy, and they said that this guy's name is Bighorn Sheep. Shi Xiong was startled. He really didn't expect that the Cree messenger Bighorn Sheep he had seen in the Cherokee king's tent was actually the man in front of him. The gap between the two is too big, right? Although it was very unpleasant when I met Bighorn Sheep last year, Shi Xiong remembered that the guy was a very clever man at the time, but what happened to this guy with a face full of lifelessness in front of him? When clearing the battlefield after the last battle with the Cree army, Stone Bear once asked some Cree wounded, knowing from their mouths, their highest commander is this guy named Bighorn Sheep. Obviously, since the Uchiran, who commanded and participated in this guy's participation, failed to encircle the expedition team last year, he wanted to attack the Cherokee tribe first. It is estimated that this Bighorn Sheep did not expect that the Cherokee would do something against the Cree. As a result, after a great battle, 20,000 elite soldiers of the Cree tribe were bombed by a bullet bomb and collapsed, and the Bighorn Sheep naturally became the scapegoat for that failure. Almost in an instant, Shi Xiong figured out the connection. And this loser, who had been defeated by him twice in a row, reappeared in front of him in this situation. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 346, The Prototype of Skirmish Line Tactics. Compared to the fat middle-aged fat chief, Shi Xiong is more interested in this haggard and unspeakable Bighorn Sheep. Although this guy lost to his own hands twice, and both times seemed to have suffered heavy losses, Shi Xiong actually recognized this guy in his heart. After all, this guy commanded the collapsed Yukai people last year and almost left the expedition team south of the Great Smoky Mountain forever. This is enough to prove this guy's military talent. As for the battle a month ago, this guy even came up with a wooden shield soldier. If it weren't for the expeditionary army to smash the grenadier out of it early, it might be possible to use the musketeer alone, defeated by this guy. Even Stone Bear has to admit that the wooden shield warriors have restrained the musketeers. Of course, all the information about the wooden shield warriors was obtained by Stone Bear from the captives of the Cree people after the last battle. Not to mention, the wooden shield fighters really shocked the Stone Bear in a cold sweat at the time. To deal with this kind of ice species, which is indistinguishable from tortoise shells, the fault is that the grenades fired blooming grenades. Otherwise even those Vasakut fortress guns would not work well against this type of unit. After the last battle, Shi Xiong also looked at the large wooden shields in the hands of the Cree wooden shield warriors, not to mention the existence of these wooden shield warriors and the guerrillas in the expeditionary army. It's no different from the large area defensive weapon carried on the logistics ox cart. This large-scale defensive weapon created by the expeditionary army is used to restrain the Cree bows and arrows, while the wooden shield warrior created by the Cree is specifically used to restrain the musketeers. Although there is a slight difference between the two, they both have a great restraint effect when dealing with long-range attacks. You must know that Stone Bear relied on a shield wall made of branches to deal with the Chickasaw French coalition forces. He naturally knew how much this heavy wooden shield restrained the gun. With the huge defensive advantage of this wooden shield, if it were not for the expeditionary force to have a more powerful grenadier, the result of the last battle would be completely changed. The 700 musketeers of the expeditionary army had nothing to do with the 2,000 wooden shield soldiers. And the final result of that battle is that 18,000 Cree fighters will directly rush into the expeditionary army's position under the protection of 2,000 wooden shield warriors, and then kill all the expeditionary army like a ruin. It was Shi Xiong who knew this, so he wanted to ask this guy who was able to come up with the wooden shield warrior how he came up with the wooden shield warrior. Because from this kind of wooden shield warrior, Shi Xiong can see that the local commander is a person who has the same philosophy as him: defeat before you win. Now, Shi Xiong saw this guy, and saw this guy for the second time. TSK, how did you become like this? Did your chief just put all the responsibility for your last failure on your head? Shi Xiong ignored Chief Kalramek, but frowned. Ask the bighorn sheep. The bighorn sheep looked up at Shi Xiong and said in a sullen voice, the defeat and victory are determined by the gods and opponents. The gods were on your side in the last battle, and your weapons are indeed powerful. I have no reason to do so. Justify the last failure. If you lose, you lose. I have nothing to say. Oh? Shi Xiong glanced at the bighorn sheep playfully. How can I listen to your tone? Do you still seem unconvinced? There is nothing to be dissatisfied with. I am just a loser, bighorn sheep said faintly, but after saying this, he looked up at Shi Xiong again. If this battle is under my command, I will let all our soldiers spread out, so that the terrifying weapon in your hand will not cause such a big damage. I have figured this out. These words made Shi Xiong almost applauded the haggard man. Even Shi Xiong had to admit that the method this guy said was indeed the best way to deal with bullet weapons like grenadiers. Isn't the so-called spreading the core idea of the tactics of the later generations? In the late 19th century, in the original historical time and space, because rear-mounted rifled guns and artillery for firing bullets were widely used, the lethality of the weapons was greatly improved, and the column tactics that used dense formations were no longer suitable for combat needs. In the Franco-Prussian War, under the threat of French firepower, Prussian soldiers evacuated their own soldiers into a straggler formation to fight in order to reduce casualties. As a result, this tactic achieved great success. Since then, the skirmish line tactics have been imitated and developed by the militaries of various countries. Judging from the current situation of the Cree and the Expeditionary Force, the Cree is the Prussian soldier in the Franco-Prussian War in the original historical time and space, and the Expeditionary Force is the French soldier with powerful firepower. And now, this bighorn sheep, who has failed twice, has figured out the most effective way to deal with muskets and flash bullets. It has to be said that this guy is definitely a military genius. Ishikama himself admitted that if he hadn't come through from the soul of later generations, he would definitely not come up with this kind of tactics similar to the skirmish line tactics in such a short period of time. The most important thing is that the haggard man in front of him should be someone who is very good at summarizing. Otherwise he would never come up with such a way. The appearance of the wooden shield warrior was obviously based on the unsuccessful way he commanded Yuchiren to encircle the expedition team to deal with the musket, and this tactic of dispersing the soldiers as much as possible was because he had come up with a method after seeing the power of the bullets. A commander who only knows how to fight bravely is nothing more than a general, and a commander who is good at summarizing is the basic quality necessary to grow into a handsome talent. So Shi Xiong is more and more interested in this bighorn sheep now. I'm reading www.hukanshu.com. It's just that Shi Xiong hasn't figured out how to deal with this bighorn sheep, and Chief Kolmarko next to him is not happy. Guardian of the High Priest of Kabru, I hope you can consider what I just proposed. According to the tradition between our tribes, you have won this time, so you can mention what you want in terms of territory, population, or other wealth. Come out, I will do my best to meet the conditions you put forward. Then, the war between our two clans can be over. Chief Kolmarko said impatiently. Kalmarko's words frowned Shikama, and then he tilted his head to look at Chief Kalmarko and said, Chief Kalmarko, if I want to add this person to the conditions I propose, you won't give him to me? Chief Kalmarko glanced at the bighorn sheep beside him, and an indescribable emotion flashed in his eyes, as if he was a little bit sad and hated. But he still nodded happily and said, that's okay. The bighorn sheep would have to pay the price for the failure of the last battle. If we win this battle, then he will be put to death in memory of the loss of his life in the last battle clan. Now since you want him, then I will give him to you. Anyway, he will always die. Chief Kalmarko said lightly, without a trace of emotion in his tone. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL Chapter 347, Interior Officer. Shi Xiong clearly saw the bighorn sheep's body trembling after hearing Chief Cole Marco's words. It seems that this haggard man was hit hard by these words. Sure enough, the bighorn sheep raised his head and looked at Chief Cole Marco. His face turned into a mixture of sadness, helplessness, pain, unwillingness and a trace of anger, and his mouth opened as if I wanted to say something, but in the end I couldn't say a word. It just turned into a sigh. Obviously, this man has been completely hurt by these few words of Chief Cole Marco. Shi Xiong looked at these two people with some playfulness, but he never said anything. Guardian, I promised to leave this person to you. Next, should we talk about other things? Chief Cole Marco's heart is not on the bighorn sheep at all. What he needs most now is to get rid of the current situation of being a fish. The bighorn sheep ignored Chief Cole Marco, but said to the bone spear and the mad cow around him, "Take this bighorn sheep back, a good hospitality, don't wrong him." After bone spear and mad cow took the bighorn sheep down, Shi Xiong turned his head and looked at Chief Cole Marco playfully. "Dear Chief, I wonder if you don't recognize the situation you are in now?" "What do you mean?" Chief Carmack felt that something was wrong subconsciously, and asked with a slight change of face. "It's not interesting." "Well, it should be said that the meaning is very simple, that is, you, including your entire tribe, are now defeated by our Cherokee Expeditionary Army, and your royal court is already occupied by our Cherokee Expeditionary Army. You, the great chief of the Cree tribe, are now a prisoner of our Expeditionary Army." Then Chief Cole Marco, "Do you think you still have to ask me about it? Are you eligible?" Shi Xiong said coldly at the fat middle-aged fat man. Chief Carmack's face suddenly turned pale. Ignoring him, Stone Bear turned his head and said to Joe Lacrelu, who was next to him, "Chief Joe Lacrelu, the next thing is left to you. Do you know what to do?" Joe Lacrelu rubbed his hands with an uncontrollable smile on his face and said, "Guardian, don't worry, I know what to do." "Well, do it beautifully. It's best not to arouse the Carrie people's disgust. Although we are conquerors, we should pay attention to the means when we do things. Just follow the methods we discussed before." Then, Shi Xiong waved his hand and walked out with his hands behind his back. Chief Cole Marco has a dumbfounded look. How can this big guy just leave? Isn't he the supreme commander of the Cherokee Expeditionary Army? Why don't you stay and negotiate terms with your chieftain? With a pop, Chief Cole Marco, who was holding his neck to look at the Stone Bear, only felt a pain in the back of his head. He turned his head and found that Joe Lacrelu was closing his hand with a smirk. "Do you dare to hit me? Are you just a tribal leader? How dare you to hit me?" This slap shot the anger of Chief Cole Marco, from small to large. Except apart from his own father who has been dead for many years, no one has dared to beat him. But before this was finished, Chief Carmack felt a flower in front of him, followed by a crisper pop, and there was a fiery pain in his cheek. Cole covered his face with a look of anger. "What are you, Chief Cole Marco? Don't forget your current identity. You are not a noble chief of the tribe now. You are now a captive of our expeditionary force. Honestly obey, otherwise you will be beaten." Joe Lacrelu squeezed his fist with a smirk, and there was a clear and audible cracking sound from his finger bones. "So cool," Joe Lacrelu almost yelled out excitedly. Being able to beat a chief of a tribe that is even stronger than the Cherokee tribe. This kind of thing was something that Lacrelu could not even think about before. But he did it today, and even gave it to him. "The guy in front of you came twice. Just going back with this incident will be able to blow the rest of their lives to the little boys at home." 2 slaps, and these words immediately caused Chief Cole Marco to wither, and he is indeed a prisoner of others now. This thing is not fake at all. How to toss that fat middle-aged fat man with Joe Lacrelu? Shi Xiong wouldn't care about it. Long before the Expeditionary Army set out, Shi Xiong had already decided on the follow-up measures that should be taken after conquering the Cree tribe. The Cree tribe is a big tribe, even more powerful than the Cherokee tribe. How such a powerful tribe can make them completely home is not a simple matter. At the very least, defeating their army is not enough. As a conqueror, if you want to completely conquer a tribe, Defeating their army is only the beginning, and you still need to do a variety of tasks to completely conquer the tribe. For any tribe or even a nation, if a foreign conqueror wants to completely conquer this tribe or nation, it is obviously impossible to rely solely on the high-pressure policy. The carrot and the stick are necessary. But when will the big stick be used? When to use carrots? It depends on the conqueror's superb methods. Throughout the history of the world, it is not that a nation has not been completely conquered, but it is more superficially conquered. But it will not be long before the conquered nation will inevitably have greater resistance, and will eventually overthrow the rule of the conqueror. The Yuan dynasty was strong enough, right? Almost the entire Eurasian continent was conquered. www.wuxiaspot.com. The huge Song dynasty was completely ruined under the cavalry of the Yuan dynasty, but so what? In the end, the Yuan dynasty, which was so powerful that it could not be beaten, just lasted less than 100 years before it collapsed. There is also an empire in the original historical time and space. Although that country did not fall into the Yuan dynasty, compared with the peak period of the empire, the 21st century Britain is undoubtedly much weaker. Therefore, Stone Bear never dared to underestimate the process of conquering a tribe. Before the expeditionary army set off, he combined with many successful and unsuccessful examples of conquerors in history, and formulated a lot of questions on how to completely conquer the scheme of people. Of course, Shi Xiong will not personally promote the implementation of these plans. Shi Xiong also knows that he is not an internal official. But Zhou Laklulu happened to be a very qualified internal affairs officer. This guy is not good at other aspects, but he has an extremely outstanding talent for doing internal affairs. Apart from anything else, the Crooked Deer tribe is becoming more and more prosperous in his hands, which is a good embodiment. Therefore, after defeating the Carry people, how to completely conquer the hearts of the Carry people, Shi Xiong believes that there must be a person with outstanding internal affairs talent to implement these plans, and in Shi Xiong's eyes, Kolaklilu is the best candidate right now. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 348, emboldened. How does Zhou Laklulu negotiate with Chief Cole Marco? This Stone Bear will not care. How to gather the hearts of most Cree people. The plan has long been worked out. As long as Kiao Laklulu's wrist is high enough, then this powerful tribe will definitely be subdued. Ishikama is not worried about this. Or Shi Xiong is very confident in the national integration plan he has developed by combining China's 5,000 years of history. Just kidding, before I crossed, 56 ethnic groups and 56 flowers were harmonious. Don't want them. In addition, it was an era of information explosion. Shi Xiong knew a lot of information, and he himself was learning history. Yes, it is a matter of hand to come up with a perfect integration plan. In the history of China, all peoples have merged one by one. Now only one Indian tribe needs to be merged, which is much less difficult. Of course, Chief Carmack and important members of the Cree will not stay in the royal court of the Cree. These people will follow a part of the returning expeditionary force to the seat of the Cherokee royal court, Nangahira. Stone Bear will not be stupid enough to directly kill the core high-level members of these Cree tribes. Once these people die, it is absolutely impossible for the Cree tribe people to return to the Cherokee tribe. So these people can't die. They have to save their lives to hang all the Cree tribesmen. House arrest is the best way to deal with these people. Of course, while guaranteeing the lives of these people, Karakrilu will also cultivate a new power class among the Crees and a new leadership class among the Crees according to the plan. Well, it is the so-called puppet regime. This kind of thing has happened a lot in China's history, suppressing a group, drawing in a group and training a group. Even if Shi Xiong has never done such a thing, he was in the era of the information explosion before the soul passed. I have never eaten pork and have seen pigs run. This kind of thing should not be too simple. Backed by powerful force, many things can be easily achieved. As for the dead-headed Cree tribes, they can't be tuned, they just die. On the one hand, it cultivates a puppet regime that is loyal to it, and on the other hand suppresses those Cree tribes who dare to resist. This is the so-called carrot and stick policy. As long as we stick to this established plan, there is no need to worry about the Cree turning over. Of course, food is indispensable in order to better bring the Cree to heart. The reason why Shi Xiong set the first target of conquest as the Cree tribe. One is that the Cree tribe wants to find fault. As a tough man who wants to dominate the entire North American continent, he has to deal with those tribes who dare to stab. Necessary response: pull out the thorns from these tribes who dared to stab them. Another most important reason is that the area ruled by the Cree tribe has a suitable climate and numerous rivers. These are the basic conditions for food production. In later generations, although the main food production area of the United States was not in the southeast, this large area was the main production area for growing cotton in the United States. But that was because American agriculture had formed a kind of inertia as early as the colonial era, and no one would change it. That's it. In fact, the area ruled by the Cree tribe has a suitable latitude. It is almost at the same latitude as the plains of the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River in China. It is also rich in freshwater resources and very suitable for temperature. Therefore, if you want to grow rice as a crop, the output will inevitably be high. The entire Cree has a population of only 100,000. As long as rice, cotton, soybeans and other crops are grown in this area on a large scale, it is still very easy to satisfy the Cree's appetite. Moreover, if the Cherokee wants to conquer the entire North American continent, it will inevitably need a huge land as a food production base. In this era, there is no need to talk about the unification of the North American continent without food, and the area ruled by the Cree tribe happens to be a good food base. As for the third reason, Shi Xiong didn't want to make trouble for him when he went to the Great Lakes area or the Midwest area. It is for these three reasons that Shi Xiong put the first target of conquering on the Cree, and he defeated the Cree with a thunderous means of destruction, and at the same time in the Cree, an image of the Cherokee is extremely powerful was erected in his heart. Are you kidding me? The expeditionary army has no more than 2,100 men, but the tens of thousands of elite Cree warriors who fought with their heads scrambled. If this is not strong, what else is called strong? Only when the Cree people are completely scared, they won't resist. As for who dares to make small moves secretly, just sending 2 squadrons of grenadiers is enough. In this regard, Shi Xiong is still very sure. In fact, in this age, let alone small-scale Indians, even the army of European colonists has to kneel down and sing to conquer in front of weapons such as bullet guns. Do you really think that this kind of weapon that can run with your back on your back, can run faster on a horse, and can carry out saturated intensive bombing at a speed of 20 rounds per minute on the ground is a joke? In the Russo-Japanese War, the little devil was able to beat the powerful bear with his head, because this bullet-throwing barrel made a huge contribution. It is no exaggeration to say that in the middle of the 18th century, the world of bullet grenades was an unsolvable existence. With this kind of weapon, let alone the Cree, even if the Spaniard from Florida comes www.wuxiaspot.com Stone Bear is confident that he can beat the Spaniard away. Yes, the Spaniards of this era are indeed very powerful, but their power lies in their navy. But no matter how powerful your Spanish navy is, you can't run to the land with sail warships full of guns to fight us, right? As for the Spanish army, that can only be haha. Although the Spanish musketeers' large phalanx is very good, if such a large phalanx based on a dense formation really dares to face the grenadiers, I Shaboom dare to 100% guarantee that his grenadiers will be very happy. Flower bombs are the best to deal with this kind of close formation, regardless of his large square array of 1,000 people or a large square array of thousands of people. A 1-minute saturated bombing with 20 grenades can definitely give Spain a taste of the despair that the Bighorn sheep experienced in the first place. Government comes out of the barrel of a gun. This sentence said by Tei Zui has always been regarded as the most reasonable saying by Shi Xiong, and he has always regarded this sentence as the highest guiding ideology for his actions after he came to this era. With a powerful army, then you can do whatever you want without fear of anything. No matter who you are, if you dare to stab, Then you have to be mentally prepared for collapse by being hit by Lao Tzu's musket and grenadier. This is Shi Xiong's confidence. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, chapter 349, eyes open and appetizing. Shi Xiong stayed in the king's court of the Cree tribe, and then returned with a part of the troops. Well, the so-called part of the troops is the 500 expeditionary forces plus a group of high-level members of the Carey Royal Court. The Stone Bear left Karaklilu with 1,600 expeditionary soldiers. Among them, 600 will stay with Karaklilu in the royal court. This part of the expedition includes a squadron of 50-man grenadiers. Soldiers, the grenadiers of this squadron have 25 grenadiers and corresponding grenades. In addition, there were 100 musketeers and 100 guerrillas and 250 logistics soldiers. There don't seem to be many people at this point. At least there are definitely not many in the area of the Cree Royal Court with a population of close to 10,000, but there are 25 grenadiers and 100 musketeers, enough to deter everyone here. After all, these people of the Cree tribe living near the royal court of the Cree tribe had seen the battle that day. They clearly saw that this inconspicuous grenadier just took 2 volleys. More than 1,000 elite warriors were killed, and the huge and terrifying sound and light effect made these Cree tribes regard the grenadier used by the expeditionary army as a bone spear in the hands of the devil. And under the deterrence of these expeditionary soldiers, Karakuru will cultivate a new generation of Cree leadership loyal to the Cherokee in the Cree Royal Court. These leaders who are loyal to the Cherokee are still under the jurisdiction of Chief Karamek, but Chief Karamek has left the Royal Court of the Cree on the grounds of visiting the Cherokee Court, and it is estimated that they will not come back in the future, so these newly cultivated leaders will become the new managers of the Cree Royal Court in the future. Winning and differentiation, suppressing and supporting, have always been the only means to engage in politics. As for the remaining 1,000 expeditionary forces, they will be divided into 2 teams, led by their respective commanders, and visiting those Cree tribes who refuse to submit under the leadership of many Kelitons. A team of 500 people equipped with grenadiers and musketeers is enough to suppress all tribes that dare to resist. In terms of internal affairs, there are internal affairs geniuses like Joe Lakrilu, and more Cherokee people who are good at internal affairs will come over in the future. These people will help Joe Lakrilu. The Stone Bear believes that the chaos of the Cree tribe will be very fast finished. Outside, 1,500 expeditionary forces suppressed it. No one can afford to make waves. Internal and external integration. Shi Xiong believes that the Cree tribe will soon take it all. It is precisely because of this confidence that the Stone Bear walks without hesitation. If even a small Cree can't be integrated, then in the future, he will not talk about unifying the new world of North America, and he will go home and hold the green skylark. Let's forget the child. The speed of going back is not much faster than when he came, mainly because of the drag of Chief Cole Marco and his group. No way. This fat chief, who is extremely rare in this era, has poor mobility, and his overly fat body is a heavy burden on him. No way. Shi Xiong could only arrange him in an ox cart and slowly drag the guy away. Chief Cole Marco can't die now, at least in the last few years. The value of this guy has not been completely squeezed out, so now it must be offered like a Buddha. For this journey of thousands of kilometers, Chief Cole Marco does not have any power to oppose, nor does he have the guts to oppose it. On the 3rd day of departure, a leader of one of the 4 guardian tribes of the Cree Royal Court called the Devilfish, he wanted to go back because of loud noises, and threatened to summon the Cree clansmen on the road to kill this branch team. What's the result? The Devilfish, a big man with a high value of force, was lifted up by the stronger guardian with one hand by his neck. Then, under the gaze of all the high-level Cree people, the Devilfish did not get rid of that. Harpak's palm was strangled to death by that Harpak abruptly. Chief Cole Marco even clearly saw that his eldest son's crotch was wet. For this kind of hard-headed guy, Shi Xiong really doesn't mind using the method of killing chickens and monkeys. Compared to the high-level members of the Cree tribe, This tribal leader called the devilfish is nothing. Regardless of whether he is a devil or a devil, if he dares to stab him, there is only a dead ghost in Lao Tzu's hands. The effect of killing chickens and monkeys is still very good. All the high-level members of the Cree tribe are all mute. No one dares to speak loudly. Even the quiet communication between each other has become less. No one is a fool. Everyone can tell that the Cherokee guardian is a cruel master. Whoever dares to violate this guy's orders will probably end up with only one way, and that is to be company with the devilfish leader. I'm afraid that guy is thinking about who to find a company for the devilfish leader. So, although the speed of going back is not fast, it is very stable. While on the road, Chief Cole Marco once again witnessed the sturdiness of these Cherokee people, especially the big scary bow in the hands of the scary big man. When these Cherokee people reach their resting place, some of them will set up camp, and some will go hunting. A group of senior members of the Cree tribe once saw a bison that was chased in a hurry and rushed towards the camp. As a result, when the camp was 300 steps away, the big man on horseback was relieved. He lowered the big bow on his back, then bent the bow and set an arrow. With one arrow, the running bison was nailed to the ground. www.wuxiaspot.com. After the bison was pulled back, all the senior members of the Lee clan were shocked to find that the arrow directly shot through the skull of the bison at a distance of 300 steps. How powerful is this? If this is used to shoot people, wouldn't it be possible to shoot people 500 or 600 steps away? The hand that Shi Xiong unintentionally exposed has made a group of high-level Cree people more honest. When everyone looked at this terrifying big man, his eyes would involuntarily show a group of eyes called all. However, this group of high-level Cree people also enjoyed the delicious food along the way, especially the kind of barbecue and small stir-fry, which made Chief Cormac and his party a lot of fun. Don't think that these people are the core high-level members of the Cree tribe, but what they usually eat is boiled meat in white water, and at most they add more salt. But along the way, they are really eye-opening and appetizing. Where have they seen barbecue before, and where have they seen a small stir-fry made with squeezed oil? Thanks to the blessing of the Expeditionary Army, these buns finally have barbecue and stir-fry. Even if it's a big pot dish, they all eat like wild dogs who haven't seen food for half a month. https://genius only remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading URL, Chapter 350, The Cafe Chief. The Expeditionary Army walked less than 1,000 kilometers for almost 3 months. When I went back, I also stopped and went, but because they wanted to send Chief Cole Marco and his party to Monongahela safely, the distance was more than 1,000 kilometers. And the group walked almost 2 times. It took a few months to arrive at the Royal Court of Cherokee. Standing outside the Cherokee royal tent, Chief Junaruska, who was surrounded by more than 3,000 warriors from the Royal Court Guardian tribe, could no longer suppress the excitement after seeing the fat young man. Laughed in front of everyone. Can you not laugh? Since Chief Junaruska became the chief of the Cherokee tribe, the Cree in the south has always been a thorn in his heart. Unable to pull out and move that uncomfortable force, except for his chief. Other people simply can't understand it. In the past, the Cherokee tribe was often angry when they lived on the east side of the Great Lake, but as a member of the Iroquois Alliance, at least the tribe didn't have to worry about it every day. But since moving south to Monongahela, the Cherokee tribe has really fallen into a situation of embarrassment on all sides. Well, maybe the situation is not as tragic as the desperate situation faced by King Chu, but it's definitely uncomfortable. The Pointons in the east, the Missourians and Kentucky in the west, and the Chickasha and Yuchi in the south, who are like scabies and scabies, stare at the tribe like a group of hungry wolves. Of course, in terms of the strength of the Cherokee tribe, it will not be afraid of these tribes, and even if the Cherokee tribe is willing, 1 or 2 of its tribes can be flattened and cut in the Appalachian Mountains. The prestige of the Rocky tribe is played out. But the problem is that on the side of the Great Smoky Mountain, there is a more powerful Cree. Although the Cree did not show hostility to the Cherokee, Chief Junaruska knew that it was because the Cree was also a little jealous of the Cherokee. When 2 bears in the wild meet together, They rarely conflict directly, they just yell at each other and leave. Even the ferocious bears know that once two bears of similar strength fight, they will eventually be cheaper than the coveted wild wolves around. It is precisely for this reason that the Cherokee tribe who moved south to Monongahela for 300 years only acted on the local tribes just after they moved south, and after obtaining a large enough territory, there has never been a large-scale external shot, maintaining a delicate balance locally. If Chief Juna Ruskin understood a Chinese idiom called "rook is in the throat," then he would definitely thumb up and praise the person who created this idiom. For the Cherokee tribe, the Cree tribe in the south is just a fishbone stuck in the breath, uncomfortable but unable to move. As far as the Cree is concerned, why isn't the Cherokee in the north like that? The two behemoths are careful to avoid direct contact, and the Carrie people even blocked the Yuchi directly to the north, acting as a buffer between the two big tribes. And the Cherokee has never killed the Chickasaws. To some extent, does it not use the Chickasaws as a buffer between the Chickasaws and the Cree? For 300 years, the two behemoths wanted to eat each other in one bite, but no one dared to take the lead. This delicate balance has been maintained for nearly 300 years. Chief Junaruska is an ambitious chief. Of course, he also wants to kill the Cree, so that without the huge constraints on the south, with the current strength of the Cherokee, it is enough to expand the territory more than a few hundred miles. And once the Cree can be truly swallowed, then the strength of the Cherokee can definitely surpass the Iroquois and Delaware who expelled the Cherokee from the Great Lakes area in the past. By then, it will be time for the Cherokee to avenge the Iroquois and the Dravas. It's just that these can only be the dreams that Chief Junaruska has when he is okay. He also knows that once the tribe and Carrie have a full-scale war, the only cheap ones are the wolf cubs around. It was for this reason that Chief Junaruska agreed to let the big man of the give it a try. In fact, when the messenger of the Cree tribe came to the king's tent, Chief Junaruska did not take the stone bear in his heart. Compared to maintaining a stable relationship between the two big clans, a stone bear is still worth the sacrifice, even if he is the guardian of the Kabru high priest. If it is Kabulu high priest, then Chief Junaruska will say that he will not hand over anything. He doesn't want to be the chief who has been stabbed by thousands of people, but the guardian of a small high priest seemed insignificant in the face of the peaceful relationship between the two big clans. But Chief Junaruska never expected that this amazing guardian could be so powerful. He actually broke through the divine decree exemption with a single horse. Such a talented person immediately made Chief Junaruska throw away the idea of surrendering him 9 days away. Such a big man with explosive strength, put it in any tribe, the chief will be treated as a treasure. Therefore, Chief Junaruska, who had changed his mind at the time, refused without hesitation the idea of the Cree messenger taking the big man away. But later, when the big man told his plan, some unbelieving chieftains followed him to the High Tree tribe, the tribe of the legendary Kogel high priest. As a result, Chief Junaruska was completely shocked by that trip. He never expected www.wuxiaspa.com in a remote corner of his jurisdiction. There should be a tribe with such a powerful force. In particular, the power of the hot weapons revealed by the High Tree tribe made Chief Junaruska frightened. Of course, in addition to the fear, Chief Junaruska also decided to fight. Although he does not believe that only 2,000 people can conquer a large tribe with a population of 100,000, what about it? The Gaoshu tribe entered the territory of the Cree tribe under the banner of revenge. Even if it failed, the Cherokee tribe would have lost only 2,000 soldiers, compared to the entire tribe with more than 40,000 warriors. This loss is acceptable to Chief Junaruska. The most important thing is that using these 2,000 warriors to test the reaction of the Cree tribe will not affect the relationship between the two tribes. Chief Junaruska bet that the Cree would never go to full-scale war against the tribe because of these 2,000 people. As a result, I didn't expect that it was more than 2,000 people in this small area that they would have won the Cree so happily. And even in a crushing situation, he took down that huge tribe. This is just a few tons of golden pie that fell from the sky. That's why Chief Junaruska laughed so gaggly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, Every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.